Chapter 783. There were both males and females among these students. Some of them looked sweet and harmless, while some of them were silent and seemed to be self-abased and cowardly. Unexpectedly, through the shining screen, they all turned into different people, like wild beasts. "Can you forgive us? Really, we didn't do it on purpose. Jing Yunzhao, I'll graduate in 1 more year. If I'm punished, my future. I beg you," one by one, they begged. Jing Yunzhao looked indifferent. Where was the earlier? "Deputy Dean, please deal with it as usual." "I have no intention of forgiving them," Jing Yunzhao said directly. She knew that the deputy dean didn't ask her to come over just for her to take a look. He wanted her to soften her heart. After all, many students were involved. Such a situation of punishing so many students at once was almost unheard of in a university. Moreover, some of them were indeed here to waste their days. However, there were also children with bright futures. Therefore, the deputy dean was soft-hearted and gave them one last chance. However, the deputy dean probably didn't expect Jing Yunzhao's attitude to be so resolute. "Jing Yunzhao, you really have guts. I know that I can't stay in this university anymore. However, you'll still be in a university in the future. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to survive after offending so many people?" Zhou Meijun said. Of course, she wasn't trying to absolve the others. She just knew that if the others' punishment could be reduced, she might be able to reduce it from expulsion to probation. Jing Yunzhao sneered. "Are you trying to scare and threaten me? You haven't forgotten, have you? If I didn't use the school's method to deal with the posts you posted, I could have sent you to jail." Zhou Meijun's body tensed up. Jing Yunzhao didn't use the legal method to deal with it. It wasn't that he wanted to let her off, but he didn't want to make things too ugly. If he dealt with it behind closed doors, no one would say anything. However, if he handed it over to the police, it would affect her and Professor Mo. Zhou Meijun was speechless. When the others heard this, they fell silent as well. Zhou Meijun's student status will be revoked and she will be expelled. As for the others, they will be on probation, the deputy dean said. When he said this, everyone was stunned. They couldn't even get their degree certificate and they would have to redo it. Not to mention the trouble, the most important thing was their records. An unclean record would bring too many disadvantages. Everyone stared at Jing Yunzhao angrily. However, their anger didn't affect Jing Yunzhao at all. These were not the only people who were scolding her. They were the most serious ones. If she didn't deal with them, others would think that she was easy to bully. Moreover, she deserved to be punished for her wrongdoings. Jing Yunzhao's face was calm. After all, she wasn't in the wrong. Although these people were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. As for Zhou Meijun, she was in complete despair. She even looked a little crazy. However, no matter how crazy she was, it was useless. She could only obediently pack her things and leave. When she reluctantly left the school with her luggage, Jing Yunzhao appeared in front of her with Heidi. He stared at her and smiled. "These are Heidi's immunity certificates. Unfortunately, you don't have the right to see them. Student Zhou Meijun, have a safe trip. Bye-bye, bye-bye." Heidi flapped his wings and shouted. Jing Yunzhao narrowed his eyes. Good girl. Zhou Meijun was so angry that she was dizzy. Even animals bullied her. Even birds bullied her. Chapter 784. Hua Tianxian and the others were laughing so hard that their stomachs hurt. They loved Heidi to death. Ren Xingyue was even more shocked when she saw Zhou Meijun, who had been yelling at her in her uncle's house, being thrown out of school so simply. Of course, she was still a little happy. She was not interested in her uncle's property, but Zhou Meijun always thought that she was spying on her with bad intentions, so she often made trouble for her. She never liked to cause trouble, and she was living under someone else's roof, so she wanted to keep the peace. She did have some resentment in her heart, but it was all vented out today. Especially when she saw Zhou Meijun leave in a sorry state, her mood was much better. Xingyue, don't be happy. The fun is not over yet. Jing Yunzhao turned around elegantly. Heidi stood on her shoulder with his head held high. There was nothing blocking him, but he did not fly around at all. He seemed to have no interest in the sky outside at all. Jing Yunzhao found that Heidi was much smarter. It should be because she sent Heidi into the space when everyone was asleep these 2 days. The space was filled with all kinds of plants grown by Lan Quan. Eating those things was good for the body, especially those medicinal herbs that had been hastened to become peerless. What do you mean? Ren Xingyue was confused. I hired someone to follow her. It shouldn't take long for them to see something interesting. Jing Yunzhao said again. The man beside Zhou Meijun was definitely shady. She didn't mind letting that man appear in the light. How could she drop out of school? An eye for an eye was the right thing to do. After all, Zhou Meijun could live a good life even if she didn't go to school. Such a result was not a big punishment at all. Ren Xingyue was even more confused. Jing Yunzhao found someone to follow Zhou Meijun. Could it be that he could find out her secret? But she was just a girl of the same age. What secret could she have? Jing Yunzhao was acting mysteriously. The few of them really couldn't make heads or tails of it, but as they walked around the campus, they could only see the gazes directed towards them one after another. Looking at Jing Yunzhao, they were all extremely envious. Jing Yunzhao hated the feeling of being famous, but there was nothing he could do now. He could only pretend that he didn't see it and continue to do his own thing. In less than 2 days, Jing Yunzhao had already gotten what she wanted. The people she hired were the hooligans who had helped her track people back in Huaning County. Their talents were quite high, being able to complete their missions perfectly every time. Thus, when she got them to the capital this time, she would also let them settle down and become her private investigators. These people were brave and smart, suitable for frontline work. However, they also needed people who were proficient in computer science and other skills. However, there was no rush. They could take their time to find them. Moreover, the computer science department of a university was full of talents. They could always find 2 suitable people. As for Zhou Meijun's photos, Jing Yunzhao was not in a hurry to use them and kept them for the time being. After all, Zhou Meijun didn't look like she was just going to confide in those men when she met them. They might be scheming against her behind her back. She had to wait for a backup plan. Without Zhou Meijun in the school, Jing Yunzhao only felt that the air in the school was much fresher. As for that Tao Gu, Jing Yunzhao didn't put her in her heart. She came from an ordinary background, so she should have cherished the opportunity that came so easily. If she had studied well in a university, she would have definitely been able to stand out one day. Yet, she just had to cut off her own path. Unlike other schools, a university never recorded demerits easily. However, once a demerit was recorded, even if it was removed at the time, it would still be on the file. It would be impossible to remove it in this lifetime. Chapter 785. Jing Yunzhao had only been out for a short while with Black King, but the photo had already been posted on the forum. The mysterious owner of Black King appeared, but the comments on the forum stopped abruptly. Almost instantly, it stopped. After all, because of the comment incident, 1 person was expelled and more than 30 people were recorded. Jing Yunzhao's name instantly became a taboo. The popularity had not yet passed, so who would dare to point fingers at Jing Yunzhao at this time? However, once they knew that Black King's owner was Jing Yunzhao, everyone suddenly felt as if dark clouds were pressing down on them. They did not think that Black King was cute anymore. On the contrary, they felt that its black feathers complemented Jing Yunzhao's black-bellied nature. After all, there were not many fools in this world. Some people with brains could tell that Professor Mo's appearance and anger were not coincidental. Moreover, that incident had been going on for 2 or 3 days without Jing Yunzhao showing up. It was as if she was deliberately letting it ferment. After thinking about it carefully, they realized that Jing Yunzhao's connivance was waiting for them to be annihilated in one fell swoop. Jing Yunzhao suddenly became a popular figure in University A. Even the limelight of a few third-year, fourth-year, and fourth-year seniors was overshadowed by her. Although no one openly criticized her on the surface, there were some rumors in private. Some people carefully asked around and found out about Jing Yunzhao's past. It was rumored that Jing Yunzhao was a genius. From elementary school to university, she had won countless awards and was firmly in first place. No one had ever surpassed her. It was also rumored that Jing Yunzhao was cold but violent. In high school, she was a maniac who would beat people up for no reason. However, there were also people who said that Jing Yunzhao's personality was extremely good, that she would grant anyone's request, and that she was amiable. The people who spread the latter were naturally Jing Yunzhao's classmates. In high school, Jing Yunzhao was quite nice to everyone except for the people she hated. Usually, when people asked her questions, she would patiently explain them over and over again. Sometimes, she would even act as their personal doctor to warn them in advance. Most of her classmates had a sense of respect for her. However, no matter what, Jing Yunzhao had become an extraordinary existence in the eyes of the students. Among these classmates, there were many who hated her, but there were also some who had a heavier taste. Most of them were girls. Every time Jing Yunzhao went to school, the proportion of girls she met seemed to be much higher than before. From time to time, she could see some boys casting speechless and envious gazes. This kind of welcome seemed a little strange to her. After nearly a month of peace, he had completely familiarized himself with the university life. During this period of time, Qi Zhong had already chosen the locations of 2 factories and was now urgently building them. After all, it involved the military, so the speed was definitely not slow. Jing Yunzhao also had a great advantage. In addition, Pak Yuan also began to expand the company's market to the capital. However, Yuling Wine's reputation was no longer the same as before, so it went very smoothly. On Saturday, Jing Yunzhao prepared a little and went out with Hua Tianxian. Hua Tianxian had specially dressed up. She wore a black leather skirt, her long hair was tied up, and her makeup had a hint of a queen's aura. On her feet, she wore a pair of 10 centimeters high heels. Her height was almost the same as Jing Yunzhao's, and she looked imposing and beautiful. Looking at you like this, I thought you were going to fight the enemy. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but laugh. It was just a meeting with Qi Zhong, but Hua Tianxian almost wanted to wear all the things in the world that could display the aura of a young lady. Chapter 786. Hua Tianxian's outfit was extravagant from top to bottom. She wore a simple but expensive diamond necklace on her chest and a custom-made bracelet on her wrist. Even her ears were adorned with expensive and ostentatious jewelry, not to mention the one-of-a-kind branded handbag in her hand. Of course, other than what she was wearing, there was also the bright red sports car that the Hua family had specially picked up. He had thought that she was only dressed a little differently, but he hadn't expected that her car would be so. Jing Yunzhao suddenly felt regretful. This sports car was indeed cool, but in comparison, she preferred a more low-key color and model. Flaunting her wealth like this would incur the wrath of others. Alright, Jing Yunzhao. This car is my baby. I don't usually drive it out. You are the first woman to sit in my car. Hua Tianxian held her head high and lifted Jing Yunzhao's chin. Then she got into the car without another word. Jing Yunzhao had a helpless look on his face as he sat beside her. Are you trying to overwhelm Qi Zhong with your aura? But I don't think he'll fall for it. It doesn't matter if he falls for it or not. I can't embarrass myself too much. I can't help but blush when I think about what happened at the military base. He probably thinks that I'm a nouveau riche. Today, I'll show him what it means to be a socialite. Hua Tianxian raised her hand and stroked her large egg-shaped head. Jing Yunzhao's lips twitched. Hua Tianxian's appearance and aura were already very much like a socialite's. However, after what she did, she looked like a nouveau riche instead. Oh right. Don't tell Qi Zhong that I know his phone number. Otherwise, he'll think that I'm the one harassing him, Hua Tianxian immediately added. Jing Yunzhao's eyelids twitched. He just wanted to say, wasn't it you? The night she gave Hua Tianxian Qi Zhong's phone number, the woman seemed to have gone crazy. She got a few hundred numbers and sent Qi Zhong messages while laughing like a maniac. The content of the messages was also very speechless. They were either poems or internet slang. There was even one time when Jing Yunzhao saw her pretending to be the legal wife and complained that Qi Zhong had found a mistress. If that was all, then it would be fine. The problem was that Hua Tianxian had gotten a voice changer from somewhere and could even make calls. Most of the time, Qi Zhong would hang up the moment he heard the sound, but later on, for some reason, he kept his phone on and allowed her to talk nonsense. Thanks to Hua Tianxian, her Black Emperor's vocabulary had grown tremendously. Hua Tianxian, who was sitting next to Jing Yunzhao, became more and more excited when they saw that they were getting closer to the agreed coffee shop. Drive faster, drive faster. She kept urging. The Hua family's chauffeur was so anxious that he broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't know what was wrong with this lady's head. The 40-minute journey had been shortened by half. If it weren't for Jing Yunzhao's calm demeanor, he would have screamed crazily in the back seat to stop the car. However, as soon as the car stopped, Hua Tianxian immediately took out a mirror from her bag and started to touch up her makeup. After she was done with her makeup, she picked up a mysterious suitcase that she had prepared beforehand and walked out of the car with an arrogant look on her face. Around them, gazes after gazes shot over. This was the first time Jing Yunzhao felt so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. Jing Air, why are you standing there like a fool? Let's go. Jing Yunzhao wanted to keep his distance, but Hua Tianxian called him sweetly again. He had no choice but to accept his fate. However, when he entered the door, he covered his face slightly with his hand to prevent someone from taking a photo of him and making it to the headlines of flaunting his wealth. Chapter 787. Hua Tianxian was the center of attention the moment she entered the cafe. She was enjoying the attention and walked toward her target with a smile on her face. Hi. Hua Tianxian greeted Qi Zhong as she placed her suitcase on the table. Li Xiaoyun was sitting opposite Qi Zhong. He stood up and walked toward Jing Yunzhao. He glanced at Qi Zhong and found a new seat to sit down with Jing Yunzhao. Who are you? Qi Zhong snorted coldly as the corner of his mouth twitched. Hua Tianxian took off her sunglasses and sat across from him. Instructor Qi, don't tell me you've forgotten me already. I've missed you so much. She was gnashing her teeth. What's your name again? Immortal. Qi Zhong was speechless. He purposely asked, where did you rent this outfit from? Hua Tianxian was petrified when she heard that. She was furious. Qi Zhong, stop pretending. I don't believe you don't remember me. Jing Yunzhao rubbed his forehead silently. He was too embarrassed to look at her. Just a second ago, he was still full of momentum, but in the end, he was defeated by Qi Zhong with just a few words. It was really embarrassing. Jing Yunzhao raised her eyes to look at Li Xiaoyun. Compared to Qi Zhong, he looked more like a gentleman and wasn't as cold as before. He took the menu and ordered 2 cups of coffee and 2 sets of desserts, charming the waiter to the point that he couldn't walk anymore. Your roommate. She has a bright future. Li Xiaoyun smiled. It was hard to tell if he was disdaining her or praising her. She'll probably go crazy if Qi Zhong says that about her. She's been preparing for today for a long time. Jing Yunzhao looked at Hua Tianqian's ashen face and couldn't help but laugh. A woman dresses up for her lover. She knows to dress up so beautifully. Don't you know how to tidy up? Li Xiaoyun leaned forward and pointed at Jing Yunzhao's neatly buttoned shirt. Jing Yunzhao was dressed the same as usual. Although she was thin, she had a great figure. However, she was a conservative woman who didn't like to expose herself. The buttons in front of her chest were tightly buttoned and she looked like a professional. Li Xiaoyun's gaze carried a bit of probing, causing Jing Yunzhao to uncomfortably shift her body backwards. She didn't dress like this for Qi Zhong to admire her. Hua Tianqian didn't forget to mention Qi Zhong when she was putting on her outfit. She looked more like an enemy than an enemy. When Li Xiaoyun heard this, he suddenly reached out and poked her forehead. You have no taste. I can guarantee that this roommate of yours is interested in second brother, but she refuses to admit it. Do you believe me? Li Xiaoyun glanced to the side and said in a low voice. Jing Yunzhao snorted. I don't believe you. Hua Tianqian was a spoiled brat. She had never been wronged in her life. However, she had been thwarted by Qi Zhong time and time again. It was natural for her to want to show off. This had nothing to do with her interest. Then let's make a bet. I'll call a few people and find a crowded place to have some fun. If your friend doesn't show her interest, then I lose. Otherwise, I win. As for the bet, what do you want? Li Xiaoyun's eyes flickered. It was hard to tell what he was thinking in his head. He asked with a dark tone. Jing Yunzhao smiled. His interest was piqued. The Li Xiaoyun that he knew was simply a two-faced and arrogant man. If she were to win today, let's make a bet. Tomorrow is the weekend and I don't have to go to class. How about it? Jing Yunzhao's eyes lit up as she suggested. Chapter 788. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows and looked at the confident Jing Yunzhao in front of him. The corner of his mouth curled up, he leaned back in his chair, exuding a noble aura. He chuckled and said, It's approved. I'll also bet on one condition. The deadline is tomorrow. After speaking, his eyes glanced at the 2 buttons above Jing Yunzhao's chest and quickly swept past them. But before that, shouldn't we talk about business first? How's the factory? Jing Yunzhao asked again. As soon as Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, Li Xiaoyun took out the briefcase that had been placed beside him and displayed it in front of her. He said, I was the one who came up with the name, Yunling Pharmaceuticals. You can be considered a brother of Yuling Wines. Here are all the required documents and factory deeds. From today onwards, these 2 pharmaceutical factories are yours. I've already negotiated with the military. The Crossing Life ointment is only allowed to be sold to the military, so you've suffered quite a bit. The construction of your factory and all the equipment and funds will be provided by the military as compensation. You don't have to worry about anything at the Crossing Life factory. Jing Yunzhao nodded. She was a little surprised that Li Xiaoyun had actually fought for her rights. Actually, she wasn't really at a disadvantage. After all, the Crossing Life ointment had been exchanged for the military's protection. As long as she had the key ingredient of the Crossing Life ointment in her hands, no one could do anything to her. Ah, Zhao, there's one thing that's not very convenient for you. You're the only person who knows about the crossing life ointment, so the military will definitely want to keep you under surveillance 24/7. In addition, everyone who gets close to you will definitely be investigated. First, it's to prevent the prescription from being leaked. Second, it's to prevent any accidents from happening to you, Li Xiaoyun said with a serious tone. To put it bluntly, it seemed like she had gained some benefits. However, if she insisted on keeping the prescription, she would definitely lose all freedom in the future. He understood her personality. She definitely wouldn't want to live under the watchful eyes of others every day without any privacy. I've thought about this. Jing Yunzhao smiled and took out a piece of paper from her bag and handed it over. I'm not familiar with the people from the military. I only trust you. She didn't think too much about it when she talked to Qi Zhong about it, but she remembered it later. If she were the leader of the military, for the sake of the rights of the soldiers, once the contract was signed, even if she did not restrict the freedom of the person who had the prescription, she would still pay close attention to it in private. There could not be any mistakes. One had to know that her medicine was extremely effective. It was something that could save lives. Therefore, after much consideration, Li Xiaoyun was more reliable. She didn't know what kind of role Li Xiaoyun played in the military, but it shouldn't be bad. She and Li Xiaoyun had been together for 2 to 3 years, so she still had some trust in him. The military wanted all the prescriptions, but she couldn't completely hand them over to someone she didn't know the ins and outs of. However, Li Xiaoyun was different. At least he wouldn't harm her. He believed that the military would not be so stupid as to let too many people know about the prescription, so Li Xiaoyun would not be under too much pressure. This was the best of both worlds. Ah, Zhao is indeed smart. You know what I mean. But aren't you afraid that I'll burn the bridge after I get the prescription? At that time, your pharmaceutical factory won't be taken care of anymore, Li Xiaoyun said. One prescription to see a friend clearly. It's worth it. Jing Yunzhao ate a mouthful of dessert and was a little sick of it. The corners of Li Xiaoyun's mouth curled up. He seemed to be very happy. Seeing that she was still eating the matcha cake with a frown, his thin lips moved a few times. It was slightly seductive. Chapter 789. Li Xiaoyun's gaze lingered on her face for a long time. Jing Yunzhao had already sensed it. Feeling a little strange, she pretended to be calm and continued to eat. However, Li Xiaoyun's unwavering gaze made her a little uncomfortable. Is there something on my face? Jing Yunzhao asked. A feast for the eyes. It just so happens that I'm hungry. Li Xiaoyun took a sip of his coffee. He couldn't restrain his gaze as he looked at her once more. 2 seconds later, he put down the cup in his hand and stood up. He walked in front of Jing Yunzhao, bent down, and wiped the corner of her mouth, but there's definitely something on it. Jing Yunzhao glared at him. Tell me if it's dirty. I'll wipe it myself. Also, what are you doing so close to me? There was a faint sandalwood scent on his body. It was supposed to calm her down, but at this moment, it made her heart flutter. Did I seduce you? If not, I'll try again. Li Xiaoyun whispered in her ear. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but chuckle. You're not young anymore. It seems that it's time for you to find a girlfriend. It's not good to keep looking at a child like me. Li Xiaoyun was stunned. He straightened his body, straightened his clothes, and sat back down. His eyes darkened as he stirred the coffee in front of him. After a few seconds, he said, You'll be an adult in 3 months. You're not a child anymore. Jing Yunzhao was stunned. What did he mean? She felt that every time she saw Li Xiaoyun, her mood would change. After all, although Li Xiaoyun treated her well, he was too shrewd. After knowing him for nearly 3 years, she didn't understand him at all. It wasn't because of his status or family background, but because of his mentality. She still couldn't tell whether he was happy or angry, or what his temper was like. Jing Yunzhao's fingers that were holding the spoon slightly tightened. After a few seconds, she opened her mouth and said, "I'm not very familiar with the capital. The factory needs to hire a director, as well as other people from the pharmaceutical company, so it might take a little longer. But once I've chosen, I'll communicate with you. After all, the military was involved in the pharmaceutical company. The management couldn't be sloppy." The topic changed so quickly. Li Xiaoyun snorted, "I've already chosen the people for you. After the factory is built, you can meet the main members. If you're not satisfied, you can change them. This stack of documents also has their information. Don't worry, they're not from the military. I guarantee that you'll be able to use them easily." Jing Yunzhao choked and didn't know what to say. He had handled everything so well for her, which made her feel a little guilty. "Are you thinking about how to repay me?" Li Xiaoyun smiled faintly and suddenly said, "Why don't you give yourself to me? You said it yourself, I'm not young anymore and need a girlfriend. I prefer young, tender, beautiful, and smart girls." "Ah Zhao, no one is better than you." Looking at his indecent appearance, Jing Yunzhao really wanted to use this plate of snacks to block his mouth. "Don't tease me, I'm not a little girl who will be infatuated. In addition to the advantages I mentioned just now, you also have a steadiness. It seems that there is no generation gap between us." "That's perfect," Li Xiaoyun said again. "Stop fooling around." Jing Yunzhao was really a little flustered. She quickly adjusted her state of mind. Li Xiaoyun looked at her slightly red face and his mood suddenly brightened. It seemed that the results of the past 2 years were not bad. At least no matter what he said, his Zhao was very patient and wouldn't get angry. If it was in the past, she would have rolled her eyes at him and left coldly. But looking at her, he became more interested. He rubbed her short hair, which had grown a little longer. Instantly, Jing Yunzhao's calm face became a little more uneasy. Chapter 790. Jing Yunzhao really couldn't do anything about Li Xiaoyun. Using force. That was definitely impossible. Not to mention that Li Xiaoyun himself knew martial arts. Even if he didn't, she couldn't possibly use force on her own people. If she couldn't use force, she could only use her mouth. However, every time she saw Li Xiaoyun, her words were pitifully few. The two of them weren't natural enemies, so how could they be at each other's throats? As a result, Jing Yunzhao could only express his dissatisfaction with his eyes. Fortunately, Li Xiaoyun knew when to stop. After rubbing his chest a few times, he began to pretend to be innocent. His face was gentlemanly, but his eyes were blatantly provocative. At this moment, the two of them were quietly drinking coffee. The beautiful scene was like a painting. Suddenly, a dong sound came from the side. Hua Tianxian angrily opened the suitcase and said, "Qi Zhong, I'm going to use this money to buy you. In the future, you'll be my bodyguard." Inside the opened suitcase, there were stacks of paper and pens. They were genuine, and everyone else was dumbfounded. The money added up to at least 5 million yuan. It wasn't a small amount. Jing Yunzhao finally knew what was inside Hua Tianxian's mysterious leather box. Her shock was beyond words as she stared at Hua Tianxian flaunting her wealth in a stupefied manner, black lines appearing on her forehead. "Nonsense," Qi Zhong said angrily, arrogant and willful. "You're useless. Throwing 5 million yuan at someone. She actually dared to do such a thing." He thought that although her temper was a little bad, she was still somewhat different from other rich young ladies. Now, it seemed that he had overestimated her. Today, she used money to buy him. Tomorrow, she would use money to bully others. These few simple words caused celestial immortal Hua's body to tremble, and her eyes turned red. However, her arrogance did not change. You are stubborn, self-righteous, pretentious, and chauvinistic. She had originally wanted to prove herself to Qi Zhong and let him see that she, Hua Tianxian, was the eldest daughter of the Hua family, a proud daughter of heaven that no one could compare to. However, who would have thought that he would make her sound like an idiot with just a few words? She had even wanted to give him 5 million yuan and let him do some peaceful work. It was better than being a dangerous and arduous soldier. When Jing Yunzhao heard this, he gave Li Xiaoyun a look. Looks like I'm going to win. That's not necessarily true. Li Xiaoyun smiled gently. Jing Yunzhao didn't think much of it. Seeing how the two of them were like fire and water, she immediately got up and pulled Hua Tianxian down. It's only been a while. Why are you arguing like this? Jing Yunzhao looked helpless. I can't be bothered to argue with him. He's such a stubborn stone. Hua Tianxian rolled her eyes with a look of disdain. Qi Zhong was a grown man, so it wasn't appropriate for him to bare his fangs and brandish his claws at her. However, his expression was a little dark. After Hua Tianxian finished speaking, she glanced at Jing Yunzhao. Then, her gaze landed on the man behind her. A trace of surprise and amazement flashed across her eyes. I was too focused on chatting just now. He's Li Xiaoyun, my friend, Jing Yunzhao said simply. As soon as Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, she felt a weight on her shoulders. She looked at Li Xiaoyun in surprise. Hua Tianxian, on the other hand, understood the situation a little better. Even though Jing Yunzhao said that he was her friend, the moment she finished speaking, Li Xiaoyun had already wrapped his arm around her shoulders to declare his sovereignty. Furthermore, Jing Yunzhao usually didn't like to get too close to the people around her, let alone the opposite sex. Up until now, she had never seen a guy stay half a meter away from her for more than 10 seconds. However, not only did Li Xiaoyun get close to her, but he even touched her. Jing Yunzhao didn't even express any disgust or repulsion. This man was definitely different to her. Chapter 791. Hua Tianxian always had a clear distinction. Although she was dissatisfied and angry with Qi Zhong, she immediately restrained herself when she saw Jing Yunzhao. She teased, "Friend. Isn't he your boyfriend? He's the one who gave you Hey Di, right?" If this man could get close to Jing Yunzhao, he would naturally be able to give a gift that Jing Yunzhao would not reject. Jing Yunzhao blushed. Are you guys done talking? Young Master Li is going to take us somewhere. Hua Tianxian turned to glare at Qi Zhong. Sure, there's nothing to talk about with a big guy like him. Qi Zhong's face darkened, but he did not say anything. The four of them took their things and got into Li Xiaoyun's car. Hua Tianxian's luxurious sports car was driven back by the Hua Tianxian's driver. However, when Qi Zhong saw the bright red color of the car, his eyes were filled with disgust. It made Hua Tianxian so angry that she wanted to smash the sports car. Li Xiaoyun's car was low-key and luxurious. The black streamlined design made it look particularly handsome. There were no extra decorations in the car, and it was relatively spacious. There was a faint sandalwood smell, and it was very comfortable. Qi Zhong acted as the driver, and Li Xiaoyun leaned in the back like a rich young master. So far, Jing Yunzhao had never seen Li Xiaoyun drive personally. The previous driver was Du Lin, and now it was Qi Zhong. This guy was like an emperor, ordering others to do this and that and never getting tired of it. However, they soon arrived at the place Li Xiaoyun mentioned. Qi Zhong was also familiar with the place. It seemed like it was a place where the brothers frequented. It was a bar called Stardust. The name sounded quite elegant, but when Jing Yunzhao entered, she realized that the name probably meant that the stars had fallen to the earth. The whole bar was filled with stars, and it had a lively and emotional atmosphere. The design of the bar was generous, and the area was not small. As soon as Li Xiaoyun came in, the waiter led him to a private room upstairs without saying a word. The red wine and fruit platter were immediately served, and Li Xiaoyun did not even say anything. "Where's old Six?" Li Xiaoyun asked. "The boss was having a good time just now. He should be sleeping now," the waiter quickly said. Li Xiaoyun didn't ask too much. Being happy definitely didn't mean it was simple and pure. Sixth brother was a playboy. He had always liked beauties and couldn't change it. "Call a few girls who know how to play to accompany second young master Qi," Li Xiaoyun said. When Qi Zhong heard this, he said, "I don't want to." Second brother. Li Xiaoyun frowned. "I didn't ask you to do anything. Just talk to them and make the atmosphere livelier. If they don't accompany you, are they going to accompany me?" The corner of Qi Zhong's mouth twitched. He really didn't know what boss was up to. However, he couldn't bring himself to ask a woman to accompany Li Xiaoyun. After all, it wouldn't be good if something bloody happened. Although he didn't know why Li Xiaoyun insisted on calling them girls, he didn't dare to challenge his boss's authority. After thinking about it, it was just a few women. So be it if they came, he could just kick them out after making a ruckus. He nodded. The corner of Li Xiaoyun's mouth curled up, revealing a hint of a mischievous smile. Jing Yunzhao could roughly guess that Li Xiaoyun wanted to use a few women to provoke Hua Tianxian. However, if a woman wasn't interested in a man, no matter how much they provoked her, it would be useless, right? Therefore, he didn't stop them. The dim lights in the room made it seem somewhat mysterious. The atmosphere was ambiguous. After a while, 5 or 6 women walked in. When Jing Yunzhao saw them, she couldn't help but be astonished. She saw that these women were all extremely beautiful. Some looked pure and clean, while others were incomparably gorgeous. She also received instructions and went straight to Qi Zhong after entering, calling out sweetly, "Second young master." Chapter 792. The women's voices were very soft and numb, as if ants had lightly stung her body, making her heart tremble. Jing Yunzhao only felt that her teeth were a bit sore and goosebumps were rising all over her body. Little did he know that these women were also very happy. The Stardust Bar was different from other places. There had never been any trouble because no one dared to come here to look for trouble. Moreover, the business here was very good. The bar's requirements for the hostesses were very high. There was no need to talk about their looks and figures. Most importantly, they had to be clean. It wasn't like other places that were filled with all kinds of people. But compared to those customers, the boss's brothers were the most attractive to the women. However, other than young Master Li was the most mysterious. He rarely came here, but every time he did, even the boss would look nervous. He was very strict with his subordinates and would never allow any women to recklessly approach him. Sometimes, there would be a few bold women who would arrange 1 or 2 accidents, but the results were quite tragic. The women who got close to young Master Li only had their limbs broken or their faces disfigured. However, although young Master Li was scary, it still couldn't stop their hearts from moving. Moreover, other than young Master Li, the others were all very handsome. And this second young Master Qi was the most popular. Second young Master Qi was full of righteousness. Although his skin was a little dark, he was extremely masculine. Even through his clothes, one could feel that he was a super handsome man. Who wouldn't want to pounce on such a man? Unfortunately, although second young Master Qi wasn't as self-disciplined as young Master Li, he never acted recklessly like the boss. Therefore, they didn't have the chance to get close to him. But today was different. It was a rare opportunity. If they could make second young Master Chi treat them differently, it would be a great deal. They knew in their hearts that it was impossible for them to become his official girlfriends. However, a relationship between a man and a woman wasn't just a relationship between a man and a woman. Second young master, let me feed you, okay? The woman's sweet voice didn't stop. Qi Zhong's face was a little red. In the past, when the brothers gathered together, Old Sixth and the others liked to have women accompany them. He, Old Fourth, and Old Sixth would never let women get close to them. Now that so many women suddenly came over, it was a little unbearable. He was also a normal man, and these women were dressed simply and seductively. Their breasts were even more exposed, and they would rub themselves against him from time to time. How could he stand it? Jing Yunzhao silently lit a candle for Qi Zhong in his heart. It was really pitiful to have such an indecent big brother like Li Xiaoyun. Big brother. Qi Zhong frowned and glanced at Li Xiaoyun. Second brother, I'll drink with you. Li Xiaoyun picked up the cup and drained it in one gulp. Hearing this, Qi Zhong could only bite the bullet and drink the wine poured by those women. Hua Tianxian, who was holding a microphone and singing, rolled her eyes when she saw this. Hua Tianxian continued to sing angrily. However, in the next second, one of the women came over with the attitude of wanting to sing a duet. She stroked her hair coquettishly, making Hua Tianxian feel uncomfortable all over. Chorus. These women were obviously here to seduce Qi Zhong. She was the eldest daughter of the Hua family. How could she be worthy of singing a song with a woman for a man like Qi Zhong? She directly slammed the microphone on the table and sat down beside Jing Yunzhao angrily. Li Xiaoyun, however, didn't listen. He toasted Qi Zhong with one glass after another, and in the blink of an eye, he drank a few bottles of hard liquor. Li Xiaoyun's eyes were still clear, but his body reeked of alcohol. Qi Zhong's situation was worse. There were more whites in his eyes than before, and he sat there a little unsteadily. However, after drinking too much, the women beside him became bolder. Their small hands moved all over Qi Zhong's body. The veins on Qi Zhong's forehead bulged, and he looked like a ferocious beast that was about to explode at any time. Chapter 793. The smell of alcohol was strong in the room. From time to time, the sound of a woman's shy laughter could be heard. Qi Zhong was drunk, and there was no need for Li Xiaoyun to force him to drink. The woman beside him had already served him one glass after another. His lower body is an animal. Jing Er, look at him. He's staring at that woman's chest lustfully. Isn't it just a little bigger? Hua Tianxian said angrily. She had also drunk a few glasses. Her face was flushed. Jing Yunzhao was stunned. Hua Tianxian was staring at Qi Zhong. It didn't look like, he panicked. Could it be that Hua Tianxian had really fallen for Qi Zhong? As he was thinking, Li Xiaoyun smiled at him and whispered in his ear, "Do you admit defeat? It's not good for you to torture Qi Zhong like this, right?" Jing Yunzhao changed the topic. Brothers. That was too heartless. Poor Qi Zhong, who was still so obedient to him. There's nothing bad about it. It's normal for brothers to joke around. Moreover, second brother's temper is too stubborn. It's time for him to suffer a little. Don't worry, I won't let him do anything excessive, Li Xiaoyun said. It was just letting his brothers drink some wine. It was impossible for these women to climb into Qi Zhong's bed. Even if Qi Zhong was willing, he wouldn't agree. Although his brothers weren't related by blood, they were closer than real brothers. Since they were 10 years old, they had been training together. Later on, they went on missions together. They had been in danger countless times, and they could entrust their lives to each other. Qi Zhong had a stubborn temper and was righteous. He wasn't like Qi Zhong, who was a playboy. Once he fell in love, he would only have one woman for the rest of his life. He was very stubborn. Therefore, his women had to be clean and of good character. Otherwise, he wouldn't agree if they ruined his brothers. Li Xiaoyun's voice wasn't loud. Only Jing Yunzhao could hear him. Jing Yunzhao sighed. Let's wait and see. Celestial immortals have a straightforward temper. Maybe they just can't stand it. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw a woman secretly grab Qi Zhong's hand and place it on her chest. She leaned close to his ear and whispered something. Hua Tianxian looked at her and rushed over. She grabbed the woman and threw her out. Get lost. You don't know how to behave. The woman was stunned and glanced at young Master Li. Seeing that he didn't care, she was relieved and said, Miss, it was young Master Li who asked us to apologize to second young Master Qi. We didn't know how to behave ourselves, but we are in this line of work. Can you teach us how to behave ourselves? Hua Tianxian was furious. Get out. They were stunned for a moment. Young Master Li Xiaoyun fiddled with the wine glass and sat up straight. He said, Miss Hua, my second brother has been holding it in for a long time. It shouldn't be a problem for me to find an opportunity to let him vent. You don't seem to be in a position to interfere. Besides, he's drunk now. I should be able to make the decision for him. Xiaoyun, enough is enough. Let them out. Jing Yunzhao felt guilty when he saw Hua Tianxian acting like this. Li Xiaoyun shook his head. This girl was too soft-hearted when it came to her friends. He wasn't doing anything bad. Although Hua Tianxian was a little arrogant, she was still a decent person. Recently, his second brother had been receiving calls from unknown numbers. Although he didn't answer, his expression was unusually gentle when he heard the voices. Moreover, his second brother seemed to be in a good mood when he went out today. If Li Xiaoyun's guess was right, that unknown number was probably from Hua Tianxian. They were in love, but they were both stubborn. Li Xiaoyun's big brother must have put a lot of thought into this. Ah, Zhao, I've already become the bad guy. Aren't you going to comfort me? This was the first time he had sacrificed himself to win a deal. Li Xiaoyun had just muttered to himself when Hua Tianxian said angrily, You're his big brother, but I'm his future girlfriend. I will never allow my man to flirt with another woman. Chapter 794. Hua Tianxian was really angry, not because of Li Xiaoyun, but because of Qi Zhong. Although she was bullied by Qi Zhong at the military training base and was not convinced, in her eyes, Qi Zhong was different from others. He had a strong temper and a firm attitude. To put it simply, he had a strong personality. This kind of man was born with a sense of security, so she treated him differently. The rich young masters she knew were completely different from Qi Zhong. Those men were delicate and more feminine than women. They were fair and tender, and they cared a lot about their personal image. To put it nicely, they were feminine. To put it bluntly, they were androgynous. To put it bluntly, they were androgynous. For the first time, Qi Zhong made her feel that a man could be so handsome. Although she did not want to admit it, she could not help but feel jealous. She hated other women getting close to Qi Zhong. She also hated that he suddenly became like a coward and listened to young Master Li's words. They were brothers and young Master Li was the boss. Of course, he should listen to him. However, there were some things, such as finding a woman. How could he be so cooperative? Hua Tianxian's sudden words made Jing Yunzhao's eyes widen in disbelief. Celestial. Hua Tianxian's face turned red. Jing Air, Hurry up and ask your man to chase them out. They've been touching me for so long. It's so disgusting. Anyway, she could not take back what she had said, so there was nothing to be embarrassed about. Hua Tianxian was a proud woman. She dared to take responsibility for her actions. If she liked someone, she would go after him. If she could not get him, she would think about it. However, before that, she would not let go of anyone who dared to touch her man. Li Xiaoyun waved his hand in satisfaction. The women immediately scattered like birds. Hua Tianxian heaved a sigh of relief and sat down. She looked at Qi Zhong, who was lying on the sofa and seemed to be about to fall asleep, and pursed her lips. Celestial, was what you said just now true? Future girlfriend. You like him? Jing Yunzhao asked again. She did not know much about relationships. After all, she had never met someone she liked in her previous life. She did not even have any friends who were in a relationship. She did not know what it was like to be moved. Moreover, compared to her heart being moved, because of Qiao Weiman's harassment in her previous life, she still felt that men were somewhat disgusting. Hua Tianqian's face turned red, but she nodded her head firmly, I guess so. But don't tell him for now, in case he gets too cocky. Also, tell him not to find another woman for Qi Zhong. No problem. Li Xiaoyun spread out his hands, happy to oblige. He wasn't that meddlesome. If it wasn't to win against Ah Zhao, he wouldn't have done such a thing to his brother. Jing Yunzhao sighed, but she wasn't too disappointed. After all, Qi Zhong wasn't a bad person. If Heavenly Fairy Hua could successfully woo him, it would be a good thing. The only regret was that she couldn't let Li Xiaoyun suffer the pain she originally wanted him to suffer. Is he going to stay here and rest? I'm worried. Hua Tianxian blushed. There were so many women here, who knew if an accident would happen? I'll drive him back to the apartment. It's late now, let's go. Li Xiaoyun stood up. Then you help him. Hua Tianxian said as Li Xiaoyun walked over. However, Li Xiaoyun only glanced at her and said coldly, you're his future girlfriend, so the responsibility of taking care of him is naturally on you. It's a good opportunity for you to get to know each other better. Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. Hua Tianqian's face was as red as a prawn, but she had a bad temper. She snorted and helped Qi Zhong out of the door. Chapter 795. Qi Zhong's body was full of strong muscles and he was quite heavy. At this moment, his entire body was on top of Hua Tianxian. On the other hand, Hua Tianxian's legs were already injured. Even though Jing Yunzhao had used medicine to help her recuperate and it wasn't obvious when she walked, she was currently wearing 10 centimeters high heels. She instantly cut a sorry figure as she limped while dragging Qi Zhong out. Her appearance was both stubborn and pitiful. Jing Yunzhao wanted to help but was dragged out by Li Xiaoyun. This is the time for her to perform well. Ah Zhao, don't ruin their good time. Li Xiaoyun smiled. They waited quietly in the car. Jing Yunzhao was already sweating. He suddenly felt that Li Xiaoyun was extremely evil. His eyes were filled with dangerous sparks and it was creepy. The two of them waited in the car for quite some time before they finally saw Hua Tianxian dragging a person out of the car. She was still carrying a 5 million suitcase in her hand, and the leather clothes she was wearing were a little inconvenient. Jing Yunzhao was a little anxious when she saw her. The beauty's trick is very effective. Ah Zhao, if you help her now, when second brother wakes up, he will be grateful to you and not her. At that time, the effect will be different. Li Xiaoyun added. Jing Yunzhao heard it and felt that it made sense. Isn't this called going against the grain? It's a pity that you don't become a matchmaker. Jing Yunzhao looked at him and was speechless. You should think about yourself now. My condition is actually very simple. Tomorrow, you will be mine. Just do as I say. Can you do that? Li Xiaoyun smiled and leaned closer. Jing Yunzhao was stunned. He had almost forgotten about this. You have such a bad taste. Don't tell me you want me to be a nanny or a servant. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows. If you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. But if you want to go back on your word, I can't do anything about it. Don't worry, I'm not that kind of person. Jing Yunzhao glared at him. I hope you can keep your word. Li Xiaoyun didn't seem to believe him at all. However, Jing Yunzhao felt a little uneasy after being questioned by Li Xiaoyun. He felt that tomorrow wouldn't be so easy to deal with. However, judging from Li Xiaoyun's actions in the past 2 to 3 years, it shouldn't be too excessive. Jing Yunzhao comforted herself for a while, but a scream suddenly came from outside. Turning his head, he saw 2 men in balaclavas running with suitcases in their hands. Hua Tianxian and Qi Zhong had been pushed to the ground, and their bodies were in a sorry state. The necklaces on their necks and the things in their hands were gone. Walking around with 5 million in cash, it would be strange if you didn't attract thieves. Li Xiaoyun started the car and drove directly in the direction of the 2 thieves. This was a main road, so they had to run for at least 300 to 400 meters before they would reach a bend. Jing Yunzhao got off the car before it started moving. Not long after, Li Xiaoyun had already stopped 300 meters away from the road. Bang! He closed the car door, rolled up his sleeves, and walked in the direction of the 2 thieves. Jing Yunzhao blocked him from behind, so there was no way to escape. Hua Tianxian originally wanted the driver to take the money back. However, Qi Zhong was the one who suggested it, so Hua Tianxian directly rejected the idea. She insisted on taking the money herself, purposely making Qi Zhong unhappy. But now, he had been robbed. Although the security in the capital was good, Hua Tianxian was stupid and had a lot of money. It was inevitable that she would be tempted by money. After all, with the money and the jewelry on her body, she could work less for many years. Kid, get out of the way. The thief shouted at Li Xiaoyun. Chapter 796. Jing Yunzhao's footsteps paused. A trace of curiosity flashed in her heart. She also wanted to see Li Xiaoyun's level. She had seen Li Xiaoyun fight twice. The first time was when the villagers ganged up on him. At that time, Li Xiaoyun didn't move much and began to seriously ask for protection. As for the second time, Li Xiaoyun used a gun. His marksmanship was amazing, but his true level was still a mystery. Li Xiaoyun's mouth curved slightly. His footsteps weren't heavy, but every step he took made people nervous. As he slowly approached, the 2 little thieves were a little flustered. Move! If you don't move, we'll do it. As they spoke, both of them took out a knife from their pockets. However, it was just an ordinary utility knife. They must have bought it at a random store. Moreover, their hands were trembling as they held the knife. It was obvious that this was their first time committing such a crime. However, to dare to rob so much money on their first offense, their courage was really not small. Jing Yunzhao stopped not far away and watched. Li Xiaoyun's attitude was relaxed as if he didn't care about this matter at all. He walked in front of the 2. The 2 little thieves didn't make a move. Instead, they prepared to go around him and escape. However, before they could take half a step, they were suddenly punched in the abdomen and fell to the ground. The other person was kicked by Li Xiaoyun and directly fell to the ground. There was no resistance at all. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. She couldn't even see the surface of this action. Let us go. We were just impulsive. the two little thieves hurriedly said. Li Xiaoyun didn't even lift his eyelids. He made a phone call and then stood there and watched. Jing Yunzhao curled her lips. I thought I could see you show off your skills. You want to see? In the future, I'll show you alone. Is that okay? Li Xiaoyun's attitude changed and said. Handsome, handsome. It's our first time. Let us go. I promise I won't dare to do it again. I saw that she had so much money, so I was greedy. My wife is sick and I don't have the money to treat her. I had no choice. One of the people on the ground said. Li Xiaoyun's expression didn't change. He didn't even respond. The moment the other party saw this, he immediately turned to Jing Yunzhao and begged, Miss, I'm begging you, we don't want to go to jail. This is really our first time. Why you guys also didn't lose anything? Can you just treat it as if nothing happened? If I go to jail, what will happen to my wife? His voice was sincere as tears streamed down his face. Jing Yunzhao frowned slightly and shook his head. He did not soften his heart. I thought you would blame me for being ruthless, Li Xiaoyun said softly. Jing Yunzhao smiled bitterly. I'm not stupid. The two of them must have seen how much money was in Hua Tianqian's suitcase from the very beginning for the two of them to be able to follow them here. It could be considered a premeditated plan. The few of them had been out for quite some time, but they still could not wake up these two people. It was too late for them to repent now that they were caught. Moreover, although he said that his wife was in the hospital, it was not worthy of forgiveness, because it was not a reason to rob others. Moreover, was a suitcase of money not enough? After robbing the money, they still wanted to rob Hua Tianqian's jewelry. It was obvious that they were greedy and insatiable. Letting them go was not a loss for her, but who would pay for Hua Tianqian's fright? If others were like them, robbing people when they were short of money, wouldn't it be a mess? However, when the police came, she would not exaggerate the facts. After Li Xiaoyun made the call, someone came to deal with it. When the two of them went back, they saw that Hua Tianqian's heel was broken and her foot was swollen again. She was in so much pain that she grimaced. After being stimulated by the scream just now, Qi Zhong tilted his head and sobered up a little. He was rubbing Hua Tianqian's foot with a straight face. I told you, the trick of injuring yourself is useful, Li Xiaoyun said in a strange tone. Chapter 797. Jing Yunzhao was speechless, but she couldn't help but admit that Li Xiaoyun was indeed more knowledgeable than her in this aspect. Qi Zhong's personality was honest and straightforward. After troubling Heavenly Fairy Hua once, he would definitely feel guilty. In the future, the two of them should be able to get along with each other a bit more gently, unlike before when they were constantly in conflict. Of course, these were just Jing Yunzhao's thoughts. Hua Tianxian was scared out of her wits. Seeing that Qi Zhong had regained his senses, Jing Yunzhao and Li Xiaoyun helped the two of them into the car. This time. I owe you a favor, Qi Zhong said after a while. Hua Tianqian's tail wagged wildly when she heard this, but before she could be happy for too long, Qi Zhong continued, however, don't you know that it's common sense not to flaunt your wealth? You're lucky that you only met a cowardly thief this time. Otherwise, not only would you not be able to keep your wealth, you might even lose your life. Thinking about it, he was a little scared. Just now, he was dizzy and didn't have the time to think too much. If he were to encounter a fierce thief with a relatively powerful weapon, Hua Tianqian's ostentatious appearance would definitely be annoying. Who knows, maybe he would have his throat slit in a single strike. He had never drunk too much before, and this time was an accident. Qi Zhong's voice was cold, instantly disappointing Hua Tianxian again. I was born to flaunt my wealth. How about it? You were useless just now. If it weren't for young Master Li and Yun Zhao, I would have lost everything. It was fine if he didn't thank her, but he actually lectured her. Moreover, she was supporting him at that time and didn't have the strength to resist at all. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so sullen. Qi Zhong's face instantly darkened. Celestial immortal whose temper really couldn't be reasoned with. He only said those things to make her remember. After all, she could dodge this time, but what about next time? At this moment, seeing the two of them start to fight again, Jing Yunzhao was a little surprised. She couldn't understand. The atmosphere was very harmonious just a moment ago, so why did it suddenly change? However, with Li Xiaoyun's reminder, Jing Yunzhao didn't try to mediate. After all, based on their current state, they could be considered as enemies. Jing Yunzhao scrutinized the two of them from time to time. However, the two of them acted as if there was no one around. The more they quarreled, the louder they got. However, Qi Zhong was a man after all. He didn't open his mouth much, but every time he did, he would shut Hua Tianxian up and leave her speechless. However, when Jing Yunzhao was looking at others absent-mindedly, she did not realize that Li Xiaoyun had been staring at her patiently. That night, Li Xiaoyun sent the two of them back to school. Before they got off the car, Li Xiaoyun's faint smile made Jing Yunzhao feel a little uneasy. As soon as they entered the school, Hua Tianxian saw Jing Yunzhao's expression and laughed. You can't bear to part with her. Jing Yunzhao, who was holding her hand, paused for a moment and shook his head. This young Master Li looks quite mysterious. To be honest, I have never seen a man with such an imposing aura. One look and I can tell that he is not someone to be trifled with. He must be from a high family, right? Hua Tianxian asked. Jing Yunzhao shook his head again. I'm not sure. You're not sure. How long have you known each other? Almost 3 years, Jing Yunzhao said again. Hua Tianxian's eyes widened when she heard this. She was speechless. You've known him for 3 years and you don't even know his background. But you two are obviously very close. Also, I saw the way he looked at you. Hua Tianxian stopped speaking. Jing Yunzhao was obviously a heartless person when it came to relationships. There were some things that she didn't need to say. It was better for her to discover it herself. Chapter 798. This was the first time she had met young Master Li, but she was impressed. As the daughter of the Hua family, she had been through all kinds of situations and had met all kinds of men. However, she rarely met men like Li Xiaoyun, who seemed friendly but had a murderous aura that made him unapproachable. However, this man treated Jing Yunzhao differently. Her intuition was very accurate when it came to judging people. She was sure that if she wasn't Jing Yunzhao's friend, this Li Xiao probably wouldn't even spare her a glance. Yet when he looked at Jing Yunzhao, it felt as if he was putting himself in a very inconspicuous position, paying attention to Jing Yunzhao's emotions at any time and place. His gaze was so gentle that it felt unreal. She couldn't even believe that a man who looked like a gentleman could have such a different side to him. Unfortunately, Jing Yunzhao didn't even notice him. Hua Tianxian didn't know what to say. What's wrong with the way he looks at me? Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but ask. It's nothing. I was just saying. However, this man is not bad. Although not everyone can handle him, if it's you, I think it's more than enough, Hua Tianxian said with a smile. Looking at Li Xiaoyun's expression, he was definitely deeply in love with her. If the other party was a normal, naive and sweet little girl, she would have taken the bait a long time ago. But who asked his eyes to be so sharp to fall for this ice-cold woman like Jing Yunzhao? Jing Yunzhao frowned slightly. She felt that she couldn't explain it clearly now. Previously, Li Xiaoyun's buddies kept calling her sister-in-law. Although she tried to explain, they didn't listen. Now, even Hua Tianxian insisted that it was a misunderstanding. At this thought, Jing Yunzhao was stunned. There seemed to be a reason for this so-called misunderstanding. Her eyes flashed, and her heart was in turmoil. If he wasn't Li Xiaoyun and was just an ordinary boy like Gan Jinchen or Tang Zihua, perhaps she would be able to face him calmly. However, just like what Hua Tianxian had said, if she couldn't figure out a person's background after 3 years, how could this person be suitable for her? Jing Yunzhao was speechless. Unknowingly, she had already arrived at the dormitory. The other 2 people in the room were not there. The moment He Di saw her, he immediately flew over, but it was still very quiet. Celestial Immortal, why are you so sure that you like Qi Zhong? The 2 of you have only spent half a month in the military training base, Jing Yunzhao asked curiously. Idiot, does liking someone depend on time? Hua Tianxian rubbed her feet and said, actually, it's not to the point where it has to be him. I just feel that there's still a possibility. At the very least, he's more to my liking than those fair and clean young men around me. But you 2 quarrel every time you meet, right? Jing Yunzhao asked casually. Jing Xiao, don't you think that quarreling men and women are more likely to develop feelings for each other? It would be strange if 2 people didn't have the slightest bit of conflict with each other, right? Let's put it this way, if I carefully take care of your emotions while chatting with you, what you would feel might not be my attentiveness, but my alienation, right? Hua Tianxian's expression became more serious. Before Jing Yunzhao could speak, Hua Tianxian continued, actually, there are some things that I've wanted to say for a long time. From the first time I met you until now, I've never seen you lose your temper or show any dissatisfaction towards any of us. You've never taken the initiative to talk about your matters, nor have you taken the initiative to ask about our matters. Xiao, there's nothing special about you to the few of us. We're just ordinary roommates, not even friends. Because we're all under the same roof, you're very calm and restrained in order to maintain stability. If your roommate were someone else, your attitude would be the same. Chapter 799. Actually, there's nothing wrong with that. Hua Tianxian smiled. We admire that about you and your ability to control yourself. After all, there aren't many girls your age who can be as independent and calm as you. However, we just feel that your life must be tough. It wasn't just tough, it was inhumane. Every time after class, the few of them would gather together. Jing Yunzhao also didn't reject this kind of group activity, but every time she came back, she would definitely study through the night and work even harder to make up for the time she wasted. After a few times, the few of them felt that being playful was a shameful act. This kind of hard work was worthy of respect, but normal people wouldn't be able to bear it, especially at this age. It was obvious that one should be free and unrestrained, and not follow the rules in everything. Jing Yunzhao had completely lost her willful spirit and was like a lunatic, treating every second as a gift from the heavens. She was too nervous and serious. As a result, she felt that she was a little indifferent. Jing Yunzhao was in a daze. She really didn't feel that she was living a tough life. After all, this kind of life was her dream. Everything was novel, but it did make her a little afraid. She was worried that she would wake up one day and still be in a cold prison. Therefore, she couldn't help but absorb more things. That way, even if she woke up from her dream, she would have fewer regrets. However, after being reminded by Hua Tianxian, she realized that she was a little too stubborn. Indeed, her current state of life was a little like when she had just reincarnated. She was worried about gains and losses, and she was stubborn. Sorry. After a while, Jing Yunzhao opened her mouth. Hua Tianxian's mouth twitched. I was just casually nagging. After all, I don't like the feeling of being thrown into the cold palace. However, it's good that you noticed. We were really worried that you would be completely immersed in your books and refuse to interact with the outside world. She said this because she wanted Jing Yunzhao to relax a little. Of course, it would be best if she could fall in love. Jing Yunzhao smiled and comforted her. Hua Tianxian reminded her that college life, which she had never experienced before, should be filled with vitality and hope. She shouldn't be overly nervous and put too much pressure on herself. Jing Yunzhao's brows instantly relaxed. He asked, Celestial Immortal, what do you think Li Xiaoyun would ask me to do if he won me a day's time? This matter had been giving her a headache for a long time, and she still couldn't figure it out. Hua Tianqian's eyes lit up. You're promising. I'm so curious about you and young Master Li. No wonder you were absent-minded when you came back. So you have a date tomorrow. Hua Tianxian said again, revealing the truth. Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. Forget it. Just pretend I didn't ask. Wasn't she walking right into a trap? She clearly knew that Hua Tianxian was a gossipy woman, yet she still stuck close to him. Her brain must have short-circuited just now. Don't. I have experience in this area. Hua Tianxian suddenly shouted. She hurriedly grabbed Jing Yunzhao and chattered endlessly. Men are all the same. You're so beautiful. If I were him, I would definitely take the opportunity to. Of course, I don't think he's such a straightforward person. However, I think that even if things don't develop to that stage, there should be some progress. As she spoke, Hua Tianxian reached out and touched Jing Yunzhao's waist. Then, she stared at her lips with an expression that said, you know what I mean. Instantly, Jing Yunzhao's face turned green. Chapter 800. Thanks to Hua Tianxian, Jing Yunzhao tossed and turned all night. She had the habit of drinking her own flower tea at night so that she could sleep soundly without many dreams. However, today, the flower tea didn't work. Once she closed her eyes, she saw some messy images, which shocked her so much that her face and ears turned red. When she woke up in the morning, her hair was messy and her eyes were a little dazed. The others were surprised to see her like this. When the appointed time arrived, her phone rang with a text message. Li Xiaoyun was already waiting at the school gate. When she saw the text message, Jing Yunzhao was even more confused. After successfully using Hua Tianqian's things, Yao Baobao asked curiously, Jing, your face is so red. Do you have a fever? With a bang, the thing in Jing Yunzhao's hand fell to the ground. In the next second, she hurriedly picked it up in a fluster. Hua Tianxian took a look and instantly burst out laughing, looking extremely savage. Jing Yunzhao glared at her and with a paw, crushed her cup. This could be considered a small revenge. Who asked her to talk nonsense last night? Hua Tianxian didn't laugh directly. Instead, she hid under the blanket and trembled more violently than before. Bao, Fairy's ankle is seriously sprained. These are the medicine I prescribed. Apply it to her ankle when you go back. After tidying up with great difficulty, Jing Yunzhao didn't forget to tell them before she left. However, as she spoke, a trace of a mischievous smile appeared on her face. These medicines were effective, but when used, they would definitely make people itch and numb. She would have to suffer. Yao Baobao looked at her in a daze. After they left, she hurriedly ran to Hua Tianqian's bed. Great Fairy! What's wrong with Jing? Did you see that just now? She actually blushed. Also, the way she looked at me was so kind. It changed a lot. Am I hallucinating? In the past, Jing Yunzhao was very polite when she spoke, but today, she didn't seem to treat them as outsiders. Hua Tianxian was still laughing. Baby, don't stop me. Let me laugh a little longer. Yao Baobao was dumbfounded. Even Ren Xingyue was confused. Jing Yunzhao went downstairs. Finally, he could no longer hear Hua Tianxian's devilish voice. He took a deep breath and walked towards the door. From a distance, he saw Li Xiaoyun standing beside a new car. The car was silver in color and looked noble and elegant. One look and he knew that it was expensive. But this time, there seemed to be no one else, including the driver. When they were only a few meters away, Li Xiaoyun bent over to open the car door and took out a bouquet of red roses. Jing Yunzhao's body instantly stiffened. His heartbeat sped up, and his smile was a little forced. Ah, Zhao, aren't you going to accept it? Jing Yunzhao was stunned for a few seconds before Li Xiaoyun smiled slowly. Because it was too early and it was the weekend, there were not many students at the entrance. Otherwise, she would have become famous again. Bracing himself, Li Xiaoyun held the bouquet in his arms and smiled with satisfaction. His gaze was gentle as he opened the door to the front passenger seat. Jing Yunzhao had no choice but to sit in. The car was very clean. There seemed to be no smell of other people. Li Xiaoyun changed into a black shirt today. The shirt was tight, and one could vaguely see his muscular body. The collar was slightly open, and there was a strong aura about him. It seemed to be different from before. Ah, Zhao, your body and heart are mine today, right? Li Xiaoyun asked after getting into the car. His eyes were so deep that they seemed to be bottomless. It was as if there was a suction force that made people lose their minds. Jing Yunzhao was stunned. I think there should be some principles. If it's too much, what are you thinking in that head of yours? Your ears are red. Don't tell me you think I'll do something only men do. Li Xiaoyun suddenly smiled and reached out to touch the tip of her ear. Jing Yunzhao's body shrank back, but she heard him say again, how about I reluctantly let you have your way? Chapter 801. Li Xiaoyun narrowed his eyes and curled his lips, looking like a sly old fox. When Jing Yunzhao heard this, she subconsciously pushed the bouquet of flowers in her hand over, but Li Xiaoyun immediately blocked it with an innocent face. Didn't you say that this day belongs to me? You really want to go back on your word? What he said just now was just to tease her. To him, she was like a treasure. What he wanted was for her to be willing, not this kind of bet. Even if it took a little more time, it didn't matter. He, Li Xiaoyun, could still afford to wait. However, looking at Jing Yunzhao's flustered and confused appearance, he wanted to further tease her. Who asked her to have such a cute and rare reaction? Jing Yunzhao sighed. There's no room for discussion on matters of principle. Too much intimate physical contact is absolutely not allowed. If you dare to move, I'm afraid we'll have to fight. If you can't do it, you can try. Oh, so you're thinking about intimate physical contact in your heart. Li Xiaoyun nodded with a serious face. I'm a serious person, Ah Zhao. It's too much for you to think of me like this in your heart, but, what step have you thought of? Tell me, I'll imagine it. If the picture is good, I'll consider forgiving you. Li Xiaoyun said again. Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. Li Xiaoyun. I'm here. Li Xiaoyun said softly. Suddenly, the car rushed out as if it was flying, scaring Jing Yunzhao. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao finally understood why this guy rarely drove. Just based on this speed, she didn't dare to agree. It was even more exciting than sitting in Hua Tianxian's car. However, his driving skills were good. Although the speed was fast, it was very stable. Moreover, the scene outside seemed to have nothing to do with him. His attitude was still neither slow nor slow, but it was very handsome. It was the first time Jing Yunzhao found that Li Xiaoyun's face was indeed fatally attractive. "Where are you taking me?" Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but ask. "I'll take you to see someone." Li Xiaoyun looked at Jing Yunzhao with a doting gaze and smiled. Jing Yunzhao was a little suspicious, but he also breathed a sigh of relief. If that was the case, then they wouldn't have much time to be alone together. The messy thoughts from yesterday were indeed just what Tianqian's conjecture. This woman's words really couldn't be trusted. Hearing Li Xiaoyun's words, Jing Yunzhao's expression softened. Only then did he remember the flowers in his arms and sniffed them. It was natural for women to like beautiful things. However, Jing Yunzhao was an exception. She was not as extreme as old man Su, but they were similar. Her love for plants came from their medicinal properties. Medicinal roses were mostly used to make tea, relieve depression, promote blood circulation, remove blood stasis, and regulate menstruation and pain. It was good for women, but it was not suitable for pregnant women who had strong internal heat. The main reason was that it had the effect of promoting blood circulation and had an impact on the fetus. "Ah Zhao, do you like practicing medicine that much?" Li Xiaoyun suddenly asked. Jing Yunzhao's hand paused. "Why do you suddenly ask?" The expression on a woman's face when she looks at a flower is not like yours. "I don't need to think carefully to know that you must be wondering what kind of illness this flower can cure," Li Xiaoyun said. He had been watching her for nearly 3 years. If he couldn't see through her thoughts, then wouldn't he have lived for 3 years in vain? Jing Yunzhao's eyes flashed with astonishment. "You really understand women." "It's the first time I've sent flowers. Even if I haven't eaten pork, I've seen pigs run. Don't make wild guesses in your heart and think that I've seduced others." Li Xiaoyun glanced at her and said. Chapter 802. Jing Yunzhao was also a smart person. Normally, she would be able to understand the hidden meaning of other people's words clearly, but hearing Li Xiaoyun's words right now, she couldn't help but wish that she was a fool. "Li Xiaoyun, what's your position in the military?" Jing Yunzhao thought about it and changed the topic. "Not a regular soldier. I'm the commander of a special mysterious force. If you count my military position, I'm currently only a major general. I'm usually responsible for some more complicated and important missions. The rest of my time is occasionally spent training subordinates. I'm not under the jurisdiction of the military. In addition, I have a few properties and some businesses that I don't have to manage myself. Of course, I also have some rising stocks. Barely. I'm considered rich." Li Xiaoyun took the initiative to explain and said, "If you want to know more, I'll make a list for you later." Jing Yunzhao's eyes flashed. "Then, my family situation may seem a little complicated to you. I didn't say before because I didn't want you to think too much or feel pressured, but I didn't want to hide it from you. My grandfather used to be one of the more important figures in the military, but he's old now and is currently idle at home. He still has some influence. Other than my grandfather, there are a few other elders. My father is a civil servant, his official rank isn't high. My grandfather doesn't like power, so my mother's family background isn't too high either. Other than my parents, there are also 2 aunts. One works in the government and married a politician, the other married a rich businessman and later became a widow. The Li family is in the capital." "Not bad," Li Xiaoyun continued without waiting for Jing Yunzhao to ask. A single "not bad" was enough for Jing Yunzhao to understand. Li Xiaoyun never spoke too confidently. The meaning of "not bad" was definitely not as simple as it seemed. However, although the Li family is quite powerful in Jingdu, it doesn't have much to do with me. "Ah Zhao, you won't dislike me for not doing my job, right?" Li Xiaoyun changed the topic. Jing Yunzhao was originally a little emotional, but when he said this, she was a little speechless. She didn't know much about the military, but she knew what a major general was. He was only 26 or 27 years old. As far as she knew, the young major general that the media reported was in his 30s. Jing Yunzhao's thoughts were complicated. She felt that Li Xiaoyun was like a roundworm in her stomach. Before she could adjust her state of mind and ask a few more questions, the car stopped in front of the mall and Li Xiaoyun directly pulled her out. He was confused. This place was filled with high-end shops, and the clothes inside were priced at thousands or even more. She was not short of money, but she would never waste money on such luxuries. Li Xiaoyun's speed was extremely fast. Like a whirlwind, he swept through the store and picked out a few girls' clothes. Try them on. Dress? Jing Yunzhao's eyes widened. She had no problem with the dress, but if she were to encounter any danger while wearing it, it would be inconvenient for her to take action. However, looking at Li Xiaoyun's determined gaze, she had no choice but to take the clothes into the fitting room. These clothes were exquisitely cut, which was an excuse for the high price. The clothes that Li Xiaoyun had chosen for her were not considered revealing, and the colors were mostly light. The most beautiful one was a long dress embroidered with light purple patterns. The patterns were not dense, so it looked particularly elegant. The two light purple veils on the back were like thin wings hanging down, just right. Jing Yunzhao tried on the clothes one by one. Li Xiaoyun waited quietly outside, his thin lips slightly pursed, looking a little serious. After trying on 7 or 8 clothes, Jing Yunzhao breathed a sigh of relief. However, Li Xiaoyun said, "Ah Zhao, why don't I take back what I just said, and you reluctantly, let me do as I wish." Chapter 803. The salespeople nearby all looked at them with envy. Originally, they were jealous and envious, but when Jing Yunzhao appeared after changing her clothes, their faces were instantly filled with amazement. Jing Yunzhao's appearance wasn't bad to begin with. She was tall and slender with a thin figure. Although her chest wasn't considered to be tumultuous, it was still well-proportioned and elegant. In addition to her natural quiet temperament, coupled with the silver-purple long dress, she instantly looked exceptionally otherworldly. Whether it was her expression or her figure, they were all perfect. The design of this dress was on the younger side, and it also complemented her age. It made her look more mature than her age. Instead, it vividly set off her youthful complexion and appearance. Li Xiaoyun's eyes were gentle. When he said that, Jing Yunzhao blushed and said seriously, "Do you know how I deal with perverts?" "I'm not a pervert. I'm speaking the truth. If you don't believe me, you can ask them yourself. Do we match?" Li Xiaoyun's eyes were heavy as he said softly. As Li Xiaoyun spoke, he stood beside Jing Yunzhao and pointed to the mirror. In the mirror, Li Xiaoyun was taller than her by a head. He had a slightly sly smile on his face. His eyebrows were relaxed, and his eyes were like ink but filled with a faint gentleness. His slightly upturned red phoenix eyes were extremely seductive and filled with an irresistible charm. He did not have a masculine temperament like Qi Zhong, but it was just right. He had the handsomeness of a man, but also a slow and gentle gentleness. His back was straight and his body was cold. When he smiled, it was difficult to tell whether he was happy or angry, but also a little wanton. It was no wonder that his charm was so great and made the girls around him lose their souls. However, if the person in the mirror was not her, it was true that whether it was appearance or temperament, they were extremely compatible. "Are you done looking? I'll change back." Jing Yunzhao did not understand the mood at all and glared at the person in the mirror. What kind of woman couldn't a person like Li Xiaoyun find? However, he just had to come and provoke her. Even if she was a fool, she would still be able to understand his hints. However, since ancient times, it had always been about matching in terms of social status. Although she was not a stubborn traditional person, she did not want to lower her head in front of Li Xiaoyun. It was fine to be friends, but it was different when it came to being in a relationship. Once you were deeply involved in each other's lives, that slight difference would be fatal to your relationship. There's no need to change. Just wear this. Li Xiaoyun suddenly smiled and reached out to tidy her hair. After muttering to himself for a moment, he said, "It's pleasing to the eye." Jing Yunzhao turned his head away. "If you don't want to get hit, why don't you try touching me again?" "Ah, Zhao, you're too fierce. Come, give me a smile." Li Xiaoyun's mouth twitched as he lowered his head and smiled evilly. Li Xiaoyun had always been a serious gentleman. At this moment, his expression was completely different from his usual self. It was very childish. Jing Yunzhao was speechless for a moment. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You're such a troublesome person," Jing Yunzhao muttered softly with a hint of resentment. When the salespeople next to them heard this, they all grinned and snickered. It had always been men who found women troublesome. This was the first time they saw a little girl seriously dislike the man next to her. This girl was not very old, and her temper was cold and cute. Looking at her, people felt an inexplicable sweetness in their hearts. Li Xiaoyun lowered his head and glanced at her. Then he turned to greet the salespeople. However, when he turned to look at others, his expression immediately became distant and cold. "Wrap all these up." After Li Xiaoyun finished speaking, he got up and prepared to pay. Jing Yunzhao took a look and directly took out her card. "I have money." Chapter 804. The total price of these clothes was not low. According to the salesperson's introduction, every piece of clothing here was unique. The texture and style of the clothes were indeed very special. She did like it, but it was not her habit to let a man pay. The way Jing Yunzhao took out the card surprised the salesperson next to her. Then she looked at Li Xiaoyun with some contradiction. Obviously, she did not know whose card was suitable. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows. "Did you forget that it belongs to me today?" Jing Yunzhao's face fell. Then. "Okay, I'll return it to you tomorrow." Then she put the card away. However, this was the first time she had inexplicably accepted such a valuable gift from someone else. Her mood was a little complicated. However, Li Xiaoyun did not take it seriously at all. He paid decisively, signed the contract, and took the initiative to carry the things into the car. The women here were about to scream. The moment the two stepped out of the shop, Jing Yunzhao could still hear the excited voices of the women behind her. "Wow, he's really handsome. I've never seen a handsome guy who loves his girlfriend so much." When the girl was trying on the clothes, he was really patient. He was not as perfunctory as the men I've seen before. "I'm so envious." "That's right. It must be a blessing to be his girlfriend. Look, what a gentleman. He even opened the car door for his girlfriend. He looked so handsome. That car must be very expensive, right? But thinking about it, any piece of clothing costs more than 10,000 yuan. It's normal to drive such a car. It's useless to be envious. His girlfriend is beautiful. At first glance, you can tell that they are a match made in heaven. Moreover, judging by the girl's temperament, she is definitely a rich young lady. Ordinary people can't compare to her." The store manager looked at the group of women chattering and watched the back of the luxurious car as it drove away. He said with a sour tone. This person's fate was very different. After the car left, Jing Yunzhao finally felt that her ears were quiet. It was not a good thing to have good hearing. She could hear things that she did not want to hear clearly. Then, Li Xiaoyun took her to other shops to buy some tonics for the elderly. Jing Yunzhao was a little surprised, but Li Xiaoyun didn't explain too much. After shopping, he directly took her to a manor. The manor wasn't very big, but the scenery was good and the air was good. The location was a little remote, so they drove straight in and parked the car near the manor. There was a small tree-lined path in the manor. When the breeze blew, it made a rustling sound. It was just autumn, so the leaves on the trees were much more haggard. The color of the leaves was slightly yellow, and the intertwining of yellow and green made it even more gorgeous. Under the tree, there were a few reclining chairs. 2 figures, one sitting and one standing. Li Xiaoyun hooked his hand slightly and placed Jing Yunzhao's hand in the crook of his arm before walking over. When he got closer, he saw that the old man was holding an unofficial history book in his hand and reading it with his head lowered. However, when he looked carefully, he found that the old man's eyes were closed and he was motionless. He seemed to be asleep. Next to him was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was dressed properly and looked like a butler. When Li Xiaoyun got closer, the old man suddenly moved. The book instantly flew toward him. The old man reached for the crutch beside him and suddenly started to hit Li Xiaoyun. Jing Yunzhao was shocked. This old man was really old but vigorous. He walked with wind. "Grandpa, there are guests." Li Xiaoyun blocked the old man's hand and coughed dryly to remind him. The old man looked at Jing Yunzhao. "Good boy, why didn't you bring my great-grandson?" Chapter 805. Hearing this, Jing Yunzhao became suspicious. She raised her head to look at Li Xiaoyun and saw that his face was also twitching. Before she could say anything, the old man reached out and pulled her over. "Why are you so skinny? Did Xiaoyun bully you and not let you eat? This brat is a scoundrel. Don't listen to him. Grow more meat and your children will be chubby. If you have a few more, the house will be livelier." Jing Yunzhao frowned. Li Xiaoyun immediately said, "All right, stop pretending. If you scare her away, you can forget about having a great-grandchild for the rest of your life." The old man's face turned solemn. "That won't do. Brat, you're already so old, but you only brought a girl over once. Are you trying to make me anxious? Grandpa, you're 1 generation behind." Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows and pulled Jing Yunzhao closer. "Ah, Zhao, this is my grandpa. Let me, don't forget what you promised me." Li Xiaoyun leaned closer and reminded in a low voice, "You don't want to make the old man sick from anger, do you?" Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. She turned to the old man and said, "Grandpa, good. Grandpa doesn't have anything to give you." As he spoke, he took out a brocade box from the chair. He opened it and put the jade bracelet on Jing Yunzhao's hand. "Keep it well. It's a family heirloom." Jing Yunzhao felt a headache coming on. "This isn't appropriate. Grandpa, I'm just here, just to visit, there's nothing inappropriate about it. My grandnephews and nephews are already old enough to buy soy sauce. They're already bringing women home when they're in their teens. This brat is already 27 this year, but he's still a little chick. How embarrassing." The old man frowned as his beard trembled violently. Hearing this, Jing Yunzhao felt dizzy. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This old man was too direct with his words. "Little chick," Jing Yunzhao lowered his head slightly, his body twitching a few times. Beside him, Li Xiaoyun said in a weird tone, "If you want to laugh, just laugh. Does it hurt to hold it in? Actually, it's not that bad." Jing Yunzhao's lips trembled slightly as he tried to restrain himself. Grandpa, you'd better restrain yourself. She's still young. If she gets scared, you won't be able to see her in the future. Li Xiaoyun snorted. When the old man heard this, he looked at Jing Yunzhao with a serious expression. Kid, do I look scary? Jing Yunzhao shook his head. This old man looked majestic. Although he was old, he looked very strong. He gave off a dignified feeling. He spoke directly, but his eyes were very kind. There was nothing bad about him. She had always been good with the elderly and could get along well with them. Walking over to pick up the unofficial history book, Jing Yunzhao asked, Grandpa, what great-grandson did you just say? Good girl, don't take it seriously. This old man is used to talking nonsense. If I don't occasionally go crazy, I won't be able to live a peaceful life. The old man walked towards the villa. The housekeeper beside him immediately stepped forward to support him. His work attitude was meticulous. Jing Yunzhao was a little puzzled, but Li Xiaoyun quickly gave her an answer. Grandpa is staying in this manor in the name of recuperating. Otherwise, there will always be people coming to see him in all kinds of ways. He's tired of it. Jing Yunzhao understood after hearing this. To outsiders, the old man was probably delirious. That was why he said those strange words to her just now. He was deliberately messing with her and treating her as his granddaughter-in-law. That was why he mentioned his great-grandson. However, when she thought about it, it was inevitable that people in high positions would have trouble with interpersonal relationships. Although the old man was recuperating at home, his previous position shouldn't have been low. As long as his influence was still there, it was impossible for people to forget him. Chapter 806. Jing Yunzhao followed him into the villa. Looking at the emerald bracelet on her wrist, her eyes darkened. When she left the manor, she still had to take the bracelet and return it to Li Xiaoyun. Not to mention that the bracelet was the Li family's heirloom. Even if it was just an ordinary accessory, she still couldn't take it casually. After a while, they entered the villa. The house was extremely quiet, but Jing Yunzhao could feel that there were other people in the manor. They should be the bodyguards. Jing Yunzhao put the book on the table. The old man glanced at it and said, I feel sleepy when I look at this book. Xiaoyun, get me a few targets and raise a few horses. It's best if you invite a few people from the martial arts club to practice martial arts with me. I'm either sitting or lying down all day. My bones are going to rust. No. Although you don't admit it, it's the truth. Li Xiaoyun didn't give him any face at all. Hearing this, the old man was so angry that his beard curled up. Misfortune of the family. Good girl, when you have a child, I'll raise it for you. Otherwise, it'll be the same as this brat, the old man said again. Jing Yunzhao sighed faintly. You wish. Li Xiaoyun poured a glass of water for Jing Yunzhao and said faintly, you raised your son. You know better than me what kind of character he has. Hearing this, the old man instantly fell silent. Jing Yunzhao thought for a moment. She remembered that Li Xiaoyun had said today that he didn't have an uncle, only an aunt. So, the bad son he was talking about should be his own biological father, right? Jing Yunzhao didn't have enough brain space to think, but she still drank the water obediently and didn't ask any more questions. Good girl, how can you stand this brat? When you have a great-grandson in the future, we'll divorce. Our Li family's property will be given to you and my great-grandson. Let this brat leave with nothing. The old man's brain circuit was completely different from that of a normal person. Jing Yunzhao had just calmed down when he was shocked again. A mouthful of water was stuck in his throat and he choked. Li Xiaoyun coughed a few times and patted her back. He glanced at old Master Li and said, "Just give your money to your son. You don't have to worry about my son and wife." Jing Yunzhao suffered another internal injury. If he hadn't lost the bet with Li Xiaoyun, thinking of the bet, Jing Yunzhao's eyes lit up. Li Xiaoyun wanted to use her as a shield, but it depended on whether she was willing or not. "Grandpa, I don't agree with Xiaoyun's words. The more money, the better. I've been afraid of being poor since I was young. In the future, I will be more than happy to take all the family assets." Jing Yunzhao pursed his lips and smiled, secretly provoking Li Xiaoyun. Any elder would not like a girl who worshipped money. When the old man heard this, he laughed instead of getting angry. "You're still the most obedient and sensible child. The family's wealth should belong to the capable, but this brat refused to take it. I'm so angry. Just as well, with you around, I can rest assured. In the future, you should take good care of the family's money. If the woman doesn't take care of the family, the man won't learn to be obedient." Jing Yunzhao's eyes widened. She was a little dumbfounded. Li Xiaoyun's lips curled. "Grandpa is right. Ah, Zhao, I will listen to you in the future." Jing Yunzhao's face stiffened. She rubbed her hands and touched the bracelet on her wrist. Gritting her teeth, she said, "Xiaoyun, this bracelet should be worth a lot of money, right? Why don't we sell it?" She didn't even let go of the family heirloom. "Grandpa Li shouldn't like her. Things are dead, but people are alive. It's no big deal if we sell it. Our family doesn't care about this. This design is old and worn. It's good to sell it and get a new one." The old man took a sip of tea without frowning. Chapter 807. Not only was old Master Li not angry, but he also looked quite happy. Jing Yunzhao was a little confused. On the way here, she had seen the gifts and tonics that Li Xiaoyun had brought. She had guessed who she was going to meet. At that time, she had been a little nervous. After all, Li Xiaoyun's background was not low, and his grandfather sounded like a very strong and powerful person. He might not be nice to her. She had already prepared herself to protect herself, but she did not expect this old man to be so friendly. Jing Yunzhao thought for a while. After a while, she said, "Grandpa Li, do you know my background?" She had no opinion about her background, nor did she feel inferior because of it. However, in the eyes of others, it seemed that she should be ashamed of it. That was why she opened her mouth. Li Xiaoyun's gaze deepened, but he did not interfere. "Background? What's the use of that? When I was in the army, there were many military young masters. However, they didn't last long. They either couldn't bear the hardships and went home, or they trembled at the sight of blood and refused to go to war. In the end, I climbed up the ranks with no one to back me up. In the end, I became the commander-in-chief. In the end, didn't that group of useless people have to listen to me?" The old man snorted, his face full of pride. When Jing Yunzhao heard this, she thought of his surname. A memory flashed in her mind. Could you be Old General Li Junwei? There was a mention of him in the textbooks, but the description was not detailed. She vaguely remembered that there was such a powerful first-level founding general. Jing Yunzhao's voice trembled. It was not out of fear, but excitement. She had read about old General Li in the past. There was not much information, but the evaluation in the information was unforgettable. The old general's family was from Yang province. His parents died in the war. He had lived in the army since he was young. It was said that when he was in his teens, he could defeat thousands of soldiers. He was very powerful and was invincible on the battlefield. However, when she thought about it, Jing Yunzhao realized that her reaction was too slow. Old General Li's family was from Ning City in Yang Province. No one knew the details, but when she met Li Xiaoyun, he went to Huaning County to pay respects to his ancestors. In that case, it was even more correct. Although no one has called me by my name for a long time, it's still correct. This name was given to me by the company commander when I was 7 years old. In our era, the names of children with low birth status were not pleasant to the ears. Some were called Go Xing, some were called Tai Zhu or Tai Dan. My name was Yong Shou. There were a few people with the same name as me, and it sounded like they were afraid of death, so they decided to change it. So child, your birth status is nothing, you don't have to take it seriously. Old Master Li spoke with a hint of bravery. Jing Yunzhao originally wanted this old man to chase her out, but now that she knew that he was old General Li, she couldn't bear to do so. She had never thought that she would be able to see such a legendary figure. Li Xiaoyun actually said that his grandfather was only slightly affected. He was too modest. Li Junwei's name was enough to make people's hearts tremble. Grandfather Li is right. Jing Yunzhao's face was a little red. She admired him a little. However, the old general was different from what she had imagined him to be when she was young. She thought that he was a high and mighty, extremely terrifying figure. In reality, he was not a fierce fiend. Instead, he was just an honest old man. So far, other than the old ancestor, the only elders that she admired were Old Man Su and Old General Li. Chapter 808. In the past, Old Master Li was just a historical figure that lived in textbooks to her. Although she admired him, it was too far away from her life, so she didn't feel much. But now, it was different. That kind of respect came from the heart. Li Xiaoyun saw that she was suddenly as obedient as a cat, and the corner of his mouth twitched. The feeling of having the limelight stolen by his grandfather wasn't too good. This old man's hobby was to show off his achievements. Li Xiaoyun glanced at Old Master Li. Old Master Li laughed dryly and changed the topic. Child, don't worry. I don't have any requirements for your family background. In a few days, our two families will meet and the marriage will be settled first. In 2 years, the two of you will get married. What do you think? Grandpa, there's no one else in my family, but I still have God-grandfather and Shifu. Jing Yunzhao followed up with a sentence, but after she finished speaking, she felt that something was wrong and quickly added, let's forget about the engagement, I've never considered it. Today, she just came to pretend to be the one who lost the bet. If she really got engaged, she would be too innocent. That's true. You're still young. There's no hurry. Old Master Li laughed happily and sighed. These few years, I've been worried that this brat's mental state was abnormal. Fortunately, when Li Xiaoyun heard that, the corner of his mouth twitched. Grandpa, aren't you tired of saying so much? I'm in good health. Why would I be tired? Old Master Li's heart was as clear as a mirror. Seeing that Li Xiaoyun was deflated, Jing Yunzhao was in a good mood. Grandpa, you said that he's mentally abnormal. What do you mean? That. I'm worried that he likes men. Old Master Li spoke without thinking. She didn't know if he was deliberately trying to embarrass Li Xiaoyun. After saying that, he even said, our family used to know a lot of people. When he was young, someone wanted to marry our family. Who knew that he would be unhappy when he saw other girls? At first, he was so angry that he didn't eat or drink and ignored everyone. Later, when he grew up, he secretly raised 2 wolf dogs and scared away all the girls. For many years, no girl dared to come to our Li family. But it's also my fault. I brought him to the army not long after he was born. No one cared about him, Sometimes, I forget that he climbed up and down by himself to look for food. All he saw were men. Jing Yunzhao had a smile on her face as she listened to the old man's chatter. She was lost in thought. Don't uncle and auntie care them? It's better to let them grow freely than to let them dote on them. Look, how promising are they now? The old man's face was filled with pride. Li Xiaoyun wasn't angry. He seemed to have expected that old Master Li wouldn't say anything nice. He sighed and sat next to her. He peeled an orange and placed it in front of her, as if he was watching a play. It's not very safe in the army, is it? Aren't you afraid that something will happen to him? Jing Yunzhao asked curiously. What's there to be afraid of? When I went to the battlefield, I was the only seedling left in the Li family. I had already been prepared for the end of the family line. Instead of having a useless son and grandson, it's better to have a clean one. Good girl, if I were an ordinary person, they could do whatever they wanted. But after all, I have some power. If my son and grandson use my power to do whatever they want, it won't be as simple as 1 or 2 people. The old man was a little serious. Jing Yunzhao listened and nodded in agreement. Girl, so in the future, when you marry into our family, straighten your back. If you don't like the people in this family, tell me and I'll teach them a lesson for you. I still have a good eye for people. You're a good child. In the future, my great-grandson will be a good child. I'm very satisfied. Chapter 809. The old man had a happy expression. Jing Yunzhao couldn't believe that the dignified old General Li was such a person. He was even easier to talk to than ordinary old people. However, Jing Yunzhao didn't know that old man Li was also a protective person. His attitude towards people was also different. At this time, when old man Li said this, Jing Yunzhao was a little envious of Li Xiaoyun. It was really fortunate to have such a prestigious and humble grandfather. Jing Yunzhao originally wanted to find an opportunity to miscalculate Li Xiaoyun's plan and take the opportunity to leave. However, now that he was facing such an old man, he couldn't say what he wanted to say before. Instead, he chatted happily with the old man. Most of the old man's stories were about his previous battles. It sounded bloody and soul-stirring. However, Jing Yunzhao felt that it was much better than the romantic dramas on TV. Especially when it came from the mouth of Grandpa Li, he could feel the weight of the history. He couldn't help but feel anxious and nervous. Look at the bullet hole in my leg. Grandpa's body is full of battle medals, but I'm old after all. Whenever it rains, my whole body hurts. The old man was also very happy after chatting for a long time. He tugged at his trousers and spoke more and more in detail. There were 3 or 4 wounds on the leg. 2 of them were caused by bullets, and the other one was a knife wound. It was a ghastly sight. Even though the skin had aged, the scars were still there. Even after so many years, they were still imprinted in the same place. Jing Yunzhao frowned slightly. Grandpa, when I go back, I'll make a few ointments. You should apply them on time every day. After 1.5 years, it shouldn't hurt anymore. That's good. However, can I still drink with your ointments? Recently, a junior sent me wine that tastes very good. I haven't tasted it yet. I can't quit drinking. The old man said again. Jing Yunzhao's eyes lit up. What's the name of the wine you drank? 7-star wine. It tastes very good. There are several other types. I heard that they are all produced by the same company. The old man's expression changed when he thought of the wine. On the other hand, Jing Yunzhao's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but feel excited. Grandpa, that 7-star wine is actually not special grade. If I knew that you liked it, I would have brought you my private collection of 7-star wine. I guarantee that the taste is much better than the ones on the market. Jing Yunzhao also feels a little pity. It's rare that Grandpa Li likes her wine, but she can't make it appear from the space. The corner of Li Xiaoyun's mouth twitched. He didn't know who had accompanied him all the way here with a look of unwillingness. Why didn't he realize that his Zhao had such a flattering side before? Jing Yunzhao and Old Master Li did not notice Li Xiaoyun's expression at all. At this moment, Old Master Li was full of energy when he heard about the top-grade wine. Good boy, next time you send it to Grandpa, Grandpa will take as much as you have. Grandpa will not take advantage of you. This room is full of broken paintings and jars that were given by others. They should be worth some money. When Jing Yunzhao came in, he found that the value of the things in this room was not low. There were many famous paintings and antiques. However, in Old Master Li's opinion, those ancient books were just for decoration. They were not valuable at all. Grandpa, I can make the wine myself. In the future, you can have as much as you want. However, although this wine is not harmful to the body, you can't drink too much at once. Otherwise, I can't give it to you. Jing Yunzhao quickly added. Chapter 8:10. The moment Old Man Li heard that Jing Yunzhao knew how to brew wine, his old face became even more amiable. The way he looked at Jing Yunzhao was like he was looking at his own granddaughter, completely forgetting about Li Xiaoyun's existence. Jing Yunzhao also chuckled. She looked very sensible and well-behaved. Her eyes were shining, which made her look like a little girl. After chatting for a while, Jing Yunzhao volunteered to cook. There was no one else in the villa except the housekeeper. She didn't mind showing off her cooking skills. Mr. Li was certainly very happy. He played chess with Li Xiaoyun while waiting. Maybe because he was in a very good mood, he won all the way. His laughter was like the sound of a bell, very loud. There were all kinds of ingredients in the kitchen, but Jing Yunzhao swapped them out with the ones stored in her space. The dishes were only half done, but the fragrance had already spread out. The old man was no longer in the mood to continue playing and waited anxiously. Jing Yunzhao's cooking skills were excellent. In addition, the taste of the ingredients in the space was extremely delicious. As soon as the dishes were served, Mr. Li immediately ate like a whirlwind sweeping away clouds. Li Xiaoyun ate very elegantly, but Mr. Li was different. He ate meat and drank wine with a forthright spirit all over his body, which made Jing Yunzhao very happy. Good boy, your cooking skills are really great. Mr. Li gave a thumbs up. It seemed that he was also very full. He always liked to eat meat and rarely touched vegetables. After all, it was this good boy's kindness today, so he often picked up some to show his politeness. Who knew that after tasting a mouthful, he couldn't restrain himself and couldn't wait to lick the soup clean. When he was young, he ate a lot of barks and weeds, so he hated these green colors very much. But if those weeds had such a taste, it would be absolutely no problem for him to be a little lamb and eat vegetables for the rest of his life. Old Master Jing looked as if he hadn't had enough, and the housekeeper's heart was filled with emotions. He really hoped that Miss Jing would come every day in the future. That way, he wouldn't have to earnestly persuade Old Master to eat vegetarian dishes. After a few hours of eating and drinking, it was time for Jing Yunzhao, the guest, to leave. However, compared to when he had first arrived, Jing Yunzhao's expression was gentle, and his mood was extremely good. If I knew you worshipped that old man, I would have brought you here earlier. But Zhao, since you're so willing to call me Grandpa, why don't you make it more official? Li Xiaoyun did not forget to remind her. Grandpa is Grandpa, and you are you. Jing Yunzhao glanced at him and smiled. She liked chatting with the elderly the most. She could learn a lot from them. Their life experiences were valuable to her. You're making me sad. Li Xiaoyun pretended to be aggrieved, but then he changed his tone and said, we agreed on one day. If we calculate, it should be over at dawn, right? The rest of the time. When Li Xiaoyun was halfway through his sentence, Jing Yunzhao's expression became slightly nervous. They had stayed in the manor for a long time, and now it was almost dark. You don't have to be so nervous. I'll send you back for the rest of the time. Li Xiaoyun narrowed his eyes and smiled slyly. Jing Yunzhao was already used to Li Xiaoyun's deliberately teasing attitude at this time. He simply said, Li Xiaoyun, you're really dawdling. Yes, He Zhao, but I'm only like this to you. I don't mind dawdling a little more. Li Xiaoyun nodded with a gentle expression. Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips, her eyes glistening with tears and her heart beating faster. She turned her head to look at the scenery outside the window, as if she didn't hear what he said. However, just as she was looking, the car stopped. Puzzled, she turned her head to look at Li Xiaoyun and felt a soft touch on her lips. Chapter 8:11. Feeling that warm breath, Jing Yunzhao's face instantly flushed red. She glared at Li Xiaoyun, not sure if she was more angry or flustered. You kissed me. Li Xiaoyun spoke first, looking like a victim. Jing Yunzhao was stunned. She pouted but couldn't say a word. She had been looking out of the window and hadn't noticed someone approaching. Who knew that they would bump into each other when she turned around? Didn't do it on purpose. But why were you so close to me all of a sudden? Jing Yunzhao asked with widened eyes. Her red ears were cute. Li Xiaoyun's ink-black eyes seemed to melt in an instant. He was handsome and gentle. Oh Zhao, I really just wanted to get close to you. I didn't expect you to be so direct. Li Xiaoyun pointed at the bottle of water in front of her with an innocent look on his face. Jing Yunzhao took a deep breath, trying to calm herself down. But at this moment, her previous restraint was useless. She only felt that every cell in her body was screaming impulsively. Her brain wasn't listening to her at all. This was the first time she had such intimate contact with someone of the opposite sex. In her previous life, Zhao Weimin had touched her, but she avoided him as much as she could. Therefore, she didn't suffer much. In her previous life, she didn't even think about being in a relationship or doing anything intimate with a man. After her rebirth, she was only in her teens. It was even more impossible for her to think so much. Li Xiaoyun, do you think I'm an idiot? How could there be such a coincidence? Jing Yunzhao was furious. This feeling was too unfamiliar. She was so nervous that her breathing became rapid. She didn't even dare to look into Li Xiaoyun's eyes. This wasn't the first time, but this time, it was especially strong. She didn't want this to change. Are you angry? Li Xiaoyun frowned and said seriously, although you took advantage of me, it's my fault. I didn't feel good enough and pricked you, pricked. You. Pricked. These words lingered in Jing Yunzhao's mind and deepened the feeling at that moment. It was actually very short, less than a second, but the side effects were obvious. Jing Yunzhao's eyes were a little red. I want to get out of the car, Li Xiaoyun. I think we both need to sort out our emotions. I know I owe you a favor, and it's not just once. But if we're friends, I can repay you in any way you want, except for this. Why not? Li Xiaoyun's eyes darkened. Because you're scared. Do you think you'll lose your freedom if you change your relationship with me? Are you afraid that I'll be like the Qiao family or that Jing Tiejuan's family from before and suppress you? Jing Yunzhao hadn't thought of the reason himself, but Li Xiaoyun had already said it. "Ah, Zhao, you know me. I won't do that. If I really wanted to imprison you, I wouldn't have waited until today. Actually, you don't have to be afraid. You're no longer that Jingyun Zhao who didn't have any ability to resist. The past is already in the past. Right now, you can study, develop your career, or even find a man like me. Also, what happened just now was indeed an accident. Of course, I could have avoided it, but I couldn't hold myself back." Li Xiaoyun's voice was low and his eyes were fixed on her, as if he wanted to lock the woman in front of him. This was the first time Jing Yunzhao heard Li Xiaoyun blabber on and on about so many mushy words. She felt strange and touched. Chapter 8:12. Li Xiaoyun's body was leaning so close to her that she could even feel his heartbeat. It seemed to be faster than usual. She could see some anticipation and panic on his face. There was an inexplicable sweetness in her heart that she couldn't control. When she first saw Li Xiaoyun, she even felt that this person was like a playboy. She felt that he was a hypocrite and not a good person. Subconsciously, she wanted to distance herself from him. But after so long, he gradually penetrated into her habits and made her lose her sense of propriety when she thought of him. She had so many top-grade herbs in her space, but they couldn't even cure this disease. However, maybe he was really good enough. With such a thought, Jing Yunzhao's eyes were in a mess. After a few seconds, she muttered, "You just admitted that you did it on purpose, right?" Li Xiaoyun rubbed the back of his hand on his lips. "I haven't touched anyone else. This is the first time in nearly 27 years. Ah, Zhao, you didn't lose anything at all. Shouldn't you be responsible for me? So it's my fault." Jing Yunzhao's eyes were full of shame and anger. "If you don't want to be responsible, then forget it. But ah, Zhao, your current appearance is a fatal temptation to a man. Also, I said so much just now, but you didn't say anything. Does that mean that you tacitly agree to my position?" Li Xiaoyun's gentle eyes were a little ambiguous, but very serious and sincere. Jing Yunzhao was a little frustrated. At this time, Li Xiaoyun suddenly leaned over again. Jing Yunzhao's heart beat faster and she raised her hand to hit him. Suddenly, the two of them exchanged blows. The sound of their bodies colliding could be heard. Li Xiaoyun dodged very cooperatively. Jing Yunzhao was originally a conditioned reflex, but now that she saw it, the corner of her mouth hooked up with a bit of ruthlessness. She deliberately closed in step by step and locked her throat. However, Li Xiaoyun was not an ordinary person without the strength to truss a chicken. Almost all of Jing Yunzhao's strength was blocked back. His speed was extremely fast, and his calculation was extremely clear. He actually faintly gained the upper hand. Although Jing Yunzhao had the space and 5 times the time, even so, it was not as long as Li Xiaoyun's time to learn martial arts. Moreover, she just heard from the old man today that Li Xiaoyun had been surrounded by tough guys since childhood. There were all kinds of people in the military camp. He used various methods to learn other people's skills and slowly practiced and improved himself. His strength was not bad. She just didn't expect him to be so powerful that she didn't even have the strength to resist. However, they were in the car after all. If they were outside and met an opponent like Li Xiaoyun, even if she couldn't win, she wouldn't be in such a sorry state like she was now. Not long after, Li Xiaoyun took the initiative, his body almost pressing down on her body, firmly clamping her wrist, and moving closer and closer. Jing Yunzhao glared at him with a red face. "I really don't know what to do with you. Ah, Zhao, I've been guarding you for so long. You should give me some sweetness, right?" Li Xiaoyun's voice was low, with a hint of intoxication. Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips. Unexpectedly, she didn't have any strong thoughts of rejecting him. Suddenly, she had a ridiculous feeling that a man's charm had led her astray. Ah Zhao, just once. Later, you can hit or scold me if you want. Li Xiaoyun moved closer again. Jing Yunzhao's body trembled, her face burning. She felt that her self-control was really getting worse and worse. Ah Zhao. In her ear, a soft whisper whispered. A faint warm breath came in front of her. Jing Yunzhao stared, only to feel that the sandalwood smell on Li Xiaoyun's body was getting clearer and clearer. Her whole body was dizzy. However, at this moment, the private lights outside flashed, and suddenly someone shouted, "What are you doing? Public place. Quick! Get out of the car." Chapter 8:13. Jing Yunzhao jumped in fright when she heard the sound outside the window. She immediately pushed Li Xiaoyun to the side and turned to look out the window. She was blinded by the light, but she could still vaguely see the light blue uniform. She was instantly speechless and lowered her head to cover her face. She had never done such an embarrassing thing in her 2 lifetimes. Was that her? That person was definitely not her. Li Xiaoyun's face was dark as he glanced at the patrolman outside. He looked like he wanted to kill someone, but the patrolman didn't care. He continued to stare fiercely at the window. Get out. I've already memorized the license plate number. If you don't get out, the punishment will be more severe. Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched as he prepared to open the door. Li Xiaoyun rubbed his temples and exhaled. Be good and sit down. With that said, he got out of the car. He had never run away from a fight in his life. He also wanted to see what the patrolman who ruined his plans looked like. The patrolman was shocked when he saw Li Xiaoyun. There were many handsome men these days, but he had never seen one who looked so fierce and cold. However, it was useless to be fierce. He wasn't that easily frightened. Take out your ID card. Also, the one inside, take it out too. Li Xiaoyun stared at the hothead and gritted his teeth. Although he could have just driven away, he was still a soldier and had always been very self-disciplined. No matter what kind of work it was, he had never neglected to cooperate. However, it was better to change this habit next time. Li Xiaoyun handed over his ID card. The patrolman said, "That woman, come out and let me see." At this time, Li Xiaoyun had already locked the door. Jing Yunzhao couldn't open it at all. He could only stay there obediently and bury his head deep. His face was red, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fine, right? Keep the money. I know how to apply the fingerprint. That's enough, Li Xiaoyun said coldly. No. We have to follow the rules. Let her get out of the car and let me see. Are you a kidnapper? As he spoke, the patrolman's face was full of vigilance. He quickly picked up his pager and prepared to call for help. Li Xiaoyun's mouth twitched, and he was so angry that his veins were bulging. With a casual flick of his hand, he threw the pager under the bridge. You dare to attack a police officer. He immediately touched his baton and pointed it at Li Xiaoyun, quickly released the girl inside. Otherwise, the consequences will be very serious. Li Xiaoyun's eyelids twitched. He exhaled and chose to take out his phone to make a call. The patrolman was stunned, but his baton was still pointed at Li Xiaoyun. Third brother, contact the patrol team and get this idiot patrolman on fucking Long Bridge to disappear from my sight immediately, Li Xiaoyun directly instructed the other side of the phone. Big brother, what's wrong? Is someone blocking your way? Aren't your driving skills very good? You should be able to shake him off, right? Old Third was puzzled. Cut the crap, hurry up, Li Xiaoyun said in a strange tone. Suddenly, the person on the other end of the phone became serious. Okay, wait for me. I'll contact them, but it should take some time to instruct them one by one. As the strategist of the brothers, Third brother felt bitter in his heart. Contact the criminal police force. It was true that he had a wide network of connections, but he really didn't know many small fries, so he could only pressure them from above. Li Xiaoyun also wanted to drive away directly, but he couldn't afford to lose face. Moreover, if he left directly, it would be troublesome if the patrolman called a group of people to block him. Chapter 8:14. At this time, after Li Xiaoyun made a phone call, not long after, a few other patrolmen rushed over and dragged the hothead away. However, the hothead still had a face full of unwillingness, as if Li Xiaoyun was a villain who had abducted a virgin. Stubborn. Li Xiaoyun gritted his teeth before getting into the car. His aura was frightening, and the air seemed to have turned cold. Only then did he drive away safely. However, in less than 2 minutes, Old Third finally found the hothead to ask about the situation. The patrolman was still in a daze. He only knew that the person on the phone was his superior, but he didn't know the identity of the other party. He said righteously, "Officer, that man is a kidnapper. How can you let him go? He actually had car sex in a public place on the bridge in front of so many people. That girl is in danger." Old Third spat out a mouthful of water when he heard that. No wonder boss had such a bad temper. It was because, but this progress was a little too fast. Sister-in-law wasn't that kind of person. At this moment, Li Xiaoyun rubbed his head. His expression was so cold that it could freeze a person to death. Jing Yunzhao also felt a little embarrassed, but other than that, she was gloating. Li Xiaoyun's angry look just now was really funny. That patrolman is quite innocent, Jing Yunzhao said lightly. Yes, very innocent. These words were forced out of Li Xiaoyun's mouth. I think his superiors will think that he caused trouble for your people for no reason. I'm afraid he won't be able to keep his job, but he is quite responsible. Jing Yunzhao said deliberately. Ah Zhao, don't speak for him. I'm afraid I can't help but want to go back and strangle him. Li Xiaoyun's face was green and red. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but laugh. Just now, I thought about it. Since I can't make myself stay away from you, then I'll choose to accept it. Li Xiaoyun, I admit that I have feelings for you. I'm also thankful for you accompanying and helping me these past 2 years. However, my personality is eccentric and weird. If you can continue to tolerate it, we can try. Jing Yunzhao finished speaking and there was silence beside her. Just when she thought that Li Xiaoyun had not heard her, she turned her head and saw that his furrowed brows had melted. Suddenly, he slammed on the brakes. You have feelings for me, right? Li Xiaoyun's tone was a little absent-minded. Jing Yunzhao was a little embarrassed, but after thinking about it, he nodded. This thought came to her when he got out of the car and negotiated with the patrol officer. She used to think that this man was high and mighty, so she was tempted but restrained herself. But at that moment, she felt that he was different, and she couldn't help but think of the scene when they met before. It was the same every time. As long as he was with her, he would be extremely patient. The way he looked at her was completely different from how he looked at others. It was just that she had not noticed it in the past or had subconsciously ignored it. If she was destined to find someone to love and have children with, she was afraid that she would not be able to accept other men besides Li Xiaoyun getting close to her. Ah Zhao, should we make up for my mind is full of Mr. Patrol Officer's face, and I think it's better to take it slow. Jing Yunzhao said again. Because of Qiao Weimin, she was a little resistant to men getting close to her. The situation between her and Li Xiaoyun was an exception. Patrol officer again. Li Xiaoyun raised the corner of his mouth. That little patrol officer has some temper, but if he keeps working, I'm afraid that in less than 3 years, his personality will be gone. In that case, Zhao, do you think I should give him a chance to stand out? If he got him to his team, whether it was the salary or the future, it would be brighter. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he would stand out, but, if he trained in his team, even if he didn't die, he would lose a layer of skin. If he wanted to be reborn, how could there be no price? Chapter 8:15. Li Xiaoyun's cold expression carried an unruly smile. The patrol officer, who had been left behind, only felt a chill run down his spine, as if he was being stared at by a ferocious beast. Jing Yunzhao, on the other hand, didn't have any other opinions. She trusted Li Xiaoyun a lot. Even though he looked a little scary right now, if he really wanted to deal with that little patrol officer, he wouldn't have cooperated with the investigation just now. Moreover, after knowing him for so long, she had never seen him use his power to bully others without any principles. He seemed a little cunning and insidious, but he was also very well behaved. Even if old Master Li wasn't taken into consideration, just based on Li Xiaoyun's status alone, even if he killed the person who angered him, no one would dare to find trouble with him. His current appearance was almost more low-key than any other young master from a powerful family. Li Xiaoyun directly sent Jing Yunzhao back to school. Jing Yunzhao's day had been chaotic, but at this time, she also felt a little sweet. Li Xiaoyun personally opened the car door for her and carried her things. He was so well behaved that he looked like a little wife. Jing Yunzhao felt like she was bullying him. Before leaving, she saw that he was a little resentful, so she braced herself and threw herself into his arms to show their intimacy. The hug lasted for a few seconds. Jing Yunzhao's face was already burning red, and she hurried back to school. Li Xiaoyun looked at her back with gentle eyes. Jing Yunzhao was still holding the bouquet of flowers in her hands. In addition, she also had the clothes that Li Xiaoyun had chosen for her. She looked like she was returning from a rewarding journey. Therefore, when she entered the dormitory, Wu Tianxian and the others were shocked and surrounded her to look at her left and right. Women in love are different. Look at her face, pink and tender. Wu Tianxian ate snacks and kept looking at her. When she saw the clothes she was wearing, she was also a little surprised. Jing Jing, this dress suits you so well. It's so beautiful. You are definitely the most beautiful girl in our dormitory. Yao Bao Bao quickly followed. It's not an exaggeration to say that you are the campus belle. Ren Xingyue added. I don't deny it. Hu Tianxian also praised. If it was someone else, she might feel a little jealous. However, towards Jing Yunzhao, that kind of emotion could not appear at all. Because the two of them were quite close, she was very clear that Jing Yunzhao did not care much about what others thought of her. Even if she was jealous to death, it would not affect Jing Yunzhao at all. Therefore, she would not do such a thankless thing. Jing Yunzhao's eyes flashed. He quickly put away the clothes and found a vase to put the flowers in. When Black King saw the roses, he immediately ran over. He held one in his mouth and looked very cute. Jing Yunzhao suddenly remembered that when Li Xiaoyun gave Black King to her, Black King looked like this now. It seemed that Li Xiaoyun had scolded him for a long time. Yao Bao Bao and the others kept gossiping. However, Jing Yunzhao was a man of few words. His answers were also ambiguous. In the end, he blushed and looked at his book, seeking peace. However, that night, after the few of them fell asleep, Jing Yunzhao put the roses in his space and soaked them in the blue spring water for a while. They became more tender and beautiful. He was afraid that even if another month passed, the flowers would not wilt. After falling asleep, he had a rare good dream. The 3 words, Li Xiaoyun, kept lingering in his mind. Until the next day of class, Jing Yunzhao was still a little uneasy. Jing Yunzhao, show me the notes you took these few days. Du Rongyang could not help but ask in class. The classes had already started for a month. He did not believe that Jing Yunzhao could remember everything without making any mistakes. Chapter 8:16. After Du Rongyang's words, everyone in the class looked at Jing Yunzhao. Some of them were waiting to see her make a fool of herself, some were worried, and some were very confident. Many of Jing Yunzhao's classmates had borrowed her notes, so they were certain she wasn't slacking off. They were just waiting for her to take them out. Jing Yunzhao, why aren't you moving? Du Rongyang frowned, looking a little more serious. The notes weren't in her hands at all. She was using loose-leaf paper. She would hand over new notes to Han Nan, the class monitor, after each class. Because there were too many people who came to borrow notes, it was troublesome to manage, so she didn't have to worry about it. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao turned to look at Han Nan, only to see him rummaging through his drawers. He seemed to be in a hurry. After a few seconds, he stood up and said, Teacher Du, her notes were left with me, but they're gone. Maybe one of the students took them and looked at them. Han Nan was a little angry. Usually, when someone borrowed a note, they would write it down, and the pages would be numbered. He would check them every time. But last Friday, the notes were still in his drawer, and now they were gone. Someone must have borrowed them and didn't tell him. Is that so? Well then, the students who took the notes can bring them up. Du Rongyang lowered his head and tidied up the podium. He seemed to believe Han Nan. Han Nan looked at Jing Yunzhao apologetically. But Jing Yunzhao just chuckled. Sure enough, she had expected this the day Du Rongyang asked her to take notes. The class fell silent. Du Rongyang frowned and said with some displeasure, What's going on? Didn't anyone take the notes? Class monitor, were you just looking for an excuse for Jing Yunzhao? Unity and friendship are good, but a person should be brave enough to take responsibility. No, Teacher Du, Jing Yunzhao really took the notes seriously. Many of the students know. They all read them. Han Nan hurriedly said, a little flustered. The number of times he borrowed Jing Yunzhao's notes was the most, mainly because he wanted to talk to her more. Luckily, Jing Yunzhao had trusted him and passed the notes to him for safekeeping, but he had actually lost them. This kind of mistake made his face burn. Teacher Du, there's no problem with Jing Yunzhao's notes. I've been borrowing them before last Sunday. A student suddenly spoke up. Du Rongyang sighed, adjusted his glasses, and said earnestly, Students, I know Jing Yunzhao is popular, but this is a task given to her by my teacher. No matter the reason, it's wrong of her to fail. But I'm not an unreasonable person. Jing Yunzhao, translate this book, and write a 5,000-word. Okay, let's continue. As soon as he finished speaking, the class was in an uproar. The foreign language book that Du Rongyang picked up was very thick. It had at least 400 to 500 pages. That book was famous for its tricky wording. There were no pictures in the whole book, and the words were very detailed. It was not easy to translate all the contents of the book. The 5,000-word self-reflection was also very difficult. Even if it was in Mandarin, it would not be easy to write 5,000 words, let alone in American. The college entrance examination required only 800 words. Teacher Du, I haven't even said anything, and you're already punishing me. Aren't you a little too hasty? Jing Yunzhao asked directly, still holding the pen in her hand. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.